We are live. We are live now.
Hello everyone. Today we have Sri Jijith Nadumuri Ravi. So we want to discuss. We requested Sir to discuss few things about Indus Valley script and other things. Sir is an ex-scientist from ISRO. He is author of 4 books related to Ramayana and Mahabharata, and he's also uh, um founder of 2 companies. Yeah, so I request sir to start with his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So thanks for the invite. Currently, what we have is that a lot of new research, new discoveries have been happening, especially related to the ancient like civilization of India, Indus Valley being one. And as the host has mentioned, my primary contribution is into the geochronology of the this Vedas and Itihasas and Puranas. And having said that, the Indus script or the Indus Valley civilization is an important piece in the geochronology because the nature of the Indus Valley civilization, what is the nature of the Indus script, all these have a bearing on the dates that researchers like me is propagating into the public domain. So that is how I have got an interest into the Indus Valley civilization and the Indus script, and this resulted me into having a contacting Sri Yajnavedam. So Yajnadevam, he's actually he has connected with me in the Twitter some 1 year, 1.5 years back, and that is how we got connected. And I started noticing his decipherment, and it's very much aligned with the geochronology research that I'm doing. So in this session, what we are doing is we'll have a glimpse of the geochronology, for which I have made around three books, and the third book happened to be 2 volume, so that is total 4 books. And then we will also go through the this before getting into the Indus Valley. We will also go to the Sumerian, a few slides on the Sumerian civilization, because it we have to state the make the record straight on whether we have a kind of an influence from Sumerian to the Indus Valley. So that is more or less the agenda of this particular session. And we try to do a kind of basic to the into the decipherment tech methodology, everything from the coming from Yajnadevam. And then I leave it to the audience to decide on the decipherment methodology and also the results. But one thing I can very clearly see is the method is very meticulous and very thorough, and we can be very clear, irrespective of the individual decipherment, that the language it looks like a Sanskrit language, because this is not only Yajnadevam, but more than almost a dozen of the new researchers from 2016 to 2024 got the same result. So there is a kind of consistency in terms of the result. So there should not be any doubt about the language, but maybe there can be a kind of debate about whether the decipherment can have different variations, etc. Now, having said that, I am just going to my presentation. Is this presentation live? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I need to share it. Screen share it. Is it come there also? Into the screen share mode.
Yes, sir. It is coming right.
Or is it presentation mode, or is it?
No, the presentation mode is not working. I think it's better if we can save it as PDF and start the presentation.
Okay, so that means I need to make a change there.
Yeah, you can stop sharing it. Select the presentation screen if it is possible.
If I press the presentation button, it should work. Maybe I'll stop sharing and try once again. Into okay. I think I got it now. Now it is a presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we have titled this as unraveling the secret of the Indus Valley civilization, and you can see here what we are seeing is the one of the kind of longest decipherment of IVC that has been come out from Sri Yajnadevam. So we will just go maybe into detail. So let me check. How do I move the slides? Shall I move the slide here? Okay. Is it the second slide is visible, right?
Yes, contents.
Okay. So now I can move it like that. So this is the kind of contents that we have. So we will have a kind of a glimpse of the geochronology, which is basically coming through my 3 books. And it is a median chronology that we are proposing. We are not exaggerating like with 12,000 BC, etc., which is incompatible with many other research, including Srikant Talagiri's like research on the dating and chronology of the Rig Veda and the Avesta and the Mitanni records, and even now the Yajnadevan's decipherment. So the exaggerated chronology of 12,000 BC, etc., for that's we are not focusing on. And then we will go through some basic terminologies which are necessary for us to deep dive into the decipherment problem, and then a few aspects of the cuneiform, that is the Sumerian script, and then the key aspects of Yajnadevan's decipherment. And we focus on the other decipherments, and then it gives a kind of clue of what is the kind of general trend in terms of decipherment of India script. Then maybe some questions, comments. So yes, all of us are excited about this new discovery announcement by Yajnavedam about the decipherment of Indus script. And of course, everybody is the surprising element of the claim is that it is Sanskritam or Sanskrit language or the Vedic language, like that. And we will explore the kind of whether it is a fully deciphered or is it a partial one, and all these things. And of course, we are not claiming into the accuracy of the decipherment, but very broadly, that can very kind of basically or fundamentally or easily we can say that Sanskritam as a language of the decipherment is almost like a certainty. So that's what we will, or compared to any other candidate language, it has got certain kind of certainty in terms when it comes to Indus script. Now, these are the kind of books that I have published. So the first book is the Rivers of Rig Veda. It is published in the January of 2022, and primarily it is focusing on the 30 plus rivers and their identification, etc. And while we do that, we get a kind of glimpse of an out of India scenario. If you analyze the rivers based on the mandala, the kind of mandala chronology that has been arrived at by Srikant Talagiri painstakingly with analyzing the lineage list of the kings as well as the rishis mentioned in the Rig Veda, the father-son relationship, descendant and ancestor-descendant relationship. So once you array all the rivers, you get a kind of a sequence which somewhere start from Saraswati to in the earliest 6th mandala to Punjab rivers like Bias Satluj, that is Sududri and Parishni in the in the 3rd mandala, and the subsequent 3rd mandala, and then the subsequent mandala, that is the 7th mandala. Then chronologically is the 3rd, but like it sequentially it is the 7th, but chronologically the 3rd mandala. So in the 7th mandala, you get rivers which are like on the Indo-Pakistan border, the Ravi River, the Parishni River, and then Chenab and Jalam and Sindhu, and then the western tributaries of Sindhu we get from the 5th mandala onwards. So there is a very direct out of India kind of a clarity from these rivers. So and actually this is a completely explained using 60 plus geographical map and then the out of India theory automatically comes out of the analysis. And a complete Rigvedic chronology that it is completely aligned with the archaeology. And there are events about like many events like Dashrajana battle, Varshagra battle, battle of Sarayu, battle of Yamuna, migration of various clans. All these are part of the book, and a lot of endorsement for this book. It is forwarded by Dr. Conrad Welch. And then we have the geography of Ramayana. So it is primarily based on the Ramayana critical edition, and it is a continuity from the Rig Veda, which unknown to many. So because there is a lot of interconnections between the Ramayana and Rig Veda, especially the Rama, who is the primary focus on the Ramayana, is mentioned in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. So there is a connection. Not only Rama, but there are some of the ancestors of Rama, like Bhagiratha is mentioned as Bhagiratha, and there is a mention, or indirect mention of Amshuman, who is another ancestor of Bhagiratha as well as Rama, through the river name called Amshumati. And there are even further, there are certain glimpses of some of the ancestors, earliest ancestors of the Ikshvakus, like this Mandhada, and then some lineages in the western branch of the Ikshvakus, like Pasadasu and Purugutsa. So Ramayana and Rigveda are well connected, and we are actually also connecting Ramayana with the subsequent text of called Mahabharata, because there is some continuity from Ramayana to Mahabharata because of certain personalities like Rama Jamadagnya, that is Parashurama, who is interacting with Sri Rama, is also teaching the next generation warriors like Bhishma and Drona. So there is a continuity from Ramayana to Mahabharata, and this book is released in 2023. And of course, there are many endorsements, and it is forwarded by Dr. Bibek Debroy, who is himself a Mahabharata and Ramayana expert, like that. So that is again a chronology and geography kind of a book. And this year I have this 2-volume geography of Mahabharata, and it culminates the chronology as of now with the continuity from Ramayana or Ramayana captured into the Mahabharata through various conversations between one sage Markandeya and Yudhishthira. And Markandeya mentioned he was a kind of a younger contemporary of Sri Rama. That is also very clearly mentioned in the Mahabharata. So we have a kind of a continuity from Rama era to Pandava era. And this Markandeya was a young youth or young boy when he met, he saw Sri Rama in the Rishyamukha mountain, and he says, like, just like you roaming in Vana, this Vana, like this Kamyaka and Dvaita Vana, just like Yudhishthira is roaming around, Sri Rama was roaming around in Rishyamukha mountain. So that statement also is in the Mahabharata, which is unknown to many. So this is again 100 plus geographical maps, and all the Janapadas, around 500 plus Janapadas, etc. is mentioned. Again, with a lot of endorsement, and also forwarded by Dr. Conrad. So we have this 3 windows into the ancient past from Rig Veda, and then the Ramayana focusing on the Rama era, and finally the Mahabharata focusing on the Pandava era. Of course, all these texts will talk about things which are further into the past. So, for example, in the Rig Veda, there is mention of Yayadi, and Yayadi's father, Nahusha's father Ayush father Pururavas, and then Ila, and then Ila's father Manu. So this is mentioned in the Rig Veda, which is not known to many. So we can actually derive a lineage list directly from the Rig Veda without focusing on the Idihasas. And same thing is also mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana, of course focusing on the Ikshvaku dynasty. And it also traces its ancestry to Manu. And after Manu, you have Mandhada, and then subsequent kings like Sagara son, Asamanja son Amshuman son Dilipa's son Bhagiratha, then Bhagiratha's son Rekhu, and like that it goes to Aja, Dasharatha, and Rama. So there is a continuity. Similarly, from the Manu, we have this Aila dynasty leading to Yayati and then Puru. From that Bharata, then Bharata diversified into 3 branches: Kushika of Vishwamitra, then Panchala and the Kuru lineage starting from Samvarana. Then the Kurus also like battling in the Kurukshetra war by dividing into Kauravas and the Pandavas. So there is a very strong kind of connection. It's almost almost like history, and it is indeed prehistory or the actual history of the Bharata captured into these three books. And so I didn't go into detail of this book, but this particular slide summarizes the kind of chronology, and it is very much in alignment with the induscript decipherment of Sri Yajnavedam as well. So you can see the Rig Veda as the oldest text. The arrow indicates that it might be the earliest part of the Rig Veda is a kind of it can be even older also. That's the meaning of the arrow. So the but the end point, the terminal point is more or less certain, very close, more certainty. Like 9800 BC is the 10th Mandala period of the Rig Veda, the terminus point. And terminus is defined by Shantanu, a king in the lineage of Kuru, because Shantanu is directly mentioned in the 10th Mandala of the Rig Veda. And similarly, Yajurveda. So we are not focused on the starting point of Yajurveda. So it might be starting in 3000 BC, most likely, or between 3000 to 2600 BC. But the most important point is Vichitravirya and Dhritarashtra mentioned in the Yajurveda. So that means its ending is a little bit later than Shantanu, because we know Vichitravirya is son of Shantanu and Dhritarashtra is a son of Vichitravirya. So it has got little bit of one more generation or two more generation evolution. And Samaveda, of course, we didn't capture any kind of Kuru kings in that, but it's more or less contemporaneous with Yajurveda. So earlier we have these three Vedas, and then you have Atharva Veda, and in there the king Parikshit is mentioned. So there are debates about the older Parikshit, but in my analysis, it is actually the Parikshit of the descendant of Pandavas. So we have a little more later the Parikshit. This Atharva Veda is a terminal point is a little more later. And how do we check it? Because in the Rig Veda, primarily you have only copper and bronze kind of technology, and there is no iron technology. Krishnayas is not mentioned in the Rig Veda. But the other Vedas, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and other Veda, you mention of Krishnayas or iron, proper iron is mentioned. And Iron Age, based on the current archaeological records, start little earlier in India from around 2000 BC onwards, or around 1900 BC. So you get the clarity about the terminus point of Rig Veda just before the Iron Age, and then the other Vedas continuing into Iron Age and iron getting mentioned. And you have Brahmanas again, a little bit kind of controversial, but earliest text, that is earliest reference to Brahmanas can go as old as the Yajurveda, around in the mature harappan period of 2600 BC. And of course, the arrows are downward. That means they continue to evolve. Same with this Aranyakas and Upanishads. So there are certain earlier part of the Upanishads which are like maybe older than Kurukshetra war, which get captured into the Bhagavad Gita as a summary. But it continues, Upanishads continues getting edited, or new Upanishads created even during the Purana edit period also. So that arrows are downwards means they are evolving. Similar with Mahabharata. And in Mahabharata, you get Ashwamedha Datta or Ashwamedha as the last king mentioned in the Mahabharata. He is the Parikshit son Janameja, Janameja's son Shataniga's son Ashwamedha. So that means great grandson of Parikshit. So up to that Mahabharata, you can see a kind of evolution. And then you have Puranas like Vishnu, Vayu, Matsya Purana. Actually, you can put an upward arrow also, because there is continuity of Purana in the ancient period. But most of the Purana, the literature, the language or use, everything makes it like a kind of maybe probably it is rewritten in every generation. Because of that, it is little bit later. Current Puranas that you get to read are later, but it can contain ancient information. So it is also valid that there can be an upward arrow here, but mostly downward in the sense that it is getting edited in the Nanda, Maurya, Sunga, and Gupta era, because all the kings of Nanda dynasty, Maurya, Sunga, Gupta are mentioned in the Puranas like that. So you can on the right hand side you can see the Bronze Age, Iron Age separation around 2000 BC, and bulls and bull carts and chariots, the earlier modes of transport. And somewhere around 2200 BC onwards, horse carts, horse chariots, war horses, war elephants, everything you can see that the transition from Bronze Age to Iron Age, and all the dates also you can see. The 25th descendant of Ashwamedha, the Kshamaka, is also mentioned, who is more or less also mentioned in all the Puranas, and also contemporary to, more or less contemporary to the Mahapadmananda. Then comes the Mauryas, then Sungas and Guptas. So I think the chronology part is now very clear. So we typically get a kind of a time bracket from 4000 BC onwards for the Rigvedic period, and then it continues into the like pass through the early Rigvedic, early Harappan and the mature Harappan period, and the Itihasas authored in the early part of the late Harappan period, where you have OCP culture complementing the this Harappan culture to the eastern side. So in the almost half of Uttar Pradesh, you have sites contemporary to the this IVC or Harappan. So that entire area, that is entire situation reflect the Aitihasic period with cities like Ayodhya, Indraprastha, Hastinapura, Kampilya, Hichatra, Ayodhya, Kashi, etc., which we get evidence for all these cities. Somewhere around in the around 1950 BC to 1700 BC, we have more or less every city is well covered in the archaeology. Even the Virata Nagari of Matsya kingdom as well. And then subsequently, the cities are all over India, and that reflects the Puranic period, where all the places in the Bharatavarsha are mentioned in the Puranas, etc., so that we can get clarity. So I think this particular slide on the chronology is very clear. And now if you go to the geography part of it, of course, a little bit of chronology as well. I have put two arrows here. So on the left-hand side, you have the Indus Valley civilization map. So all these Indus Valley civilization cities, that is you can see in the left-hand side map. Okay, this is a very popular map in the Wikipedia, and it is showing the mature phase of the Indus Valley civilization, that is 2600 to 900 BC. So if you look at the top, you can see the early and mature Harappan is equal to early, mid, and late Rigveda. So this is the equation I get in terms of chronology. So you have the Harappan period, you have three parts: early and mature, and then late also. Late Harappan also is there. Similarly, the Rigveda also early, mid, and late Rigvedic periods are there. They have their own characteristics. And the equation I'm getting is the early and mature Harappan is equal to early, mid, late Rigveda. So Rigveda is composed somewhere in the early and Harappan and the mature Harappan period, and by the end of the mature Harappan, Rigvedic composition also ended. And then what is late Harappan? So the late Harappan is more or less corresponding with the Aitihasic age. When I say Aitihasic age, it includes both Ramayana and Pandavara, and then that is also very surprising, and it is a kind of controversial outcome. But this is the kind of straight research outcome I got. So there may be kind of debates on it. So these are the equation. Early Harappan 3300 to 2600 BC corresponds to early Rigveda 3300 to 3000 BC. Then you have middle Rigvedic period 3000 to 2600 BC, and mature Harappan, that is the main part, 2600 to 900 BC. That is the main or the core part of the Harappan civilization. This is the peak period or the golden age of the Harappan period. And the induscript also developed to a kind of good sophistication during this 2600 to 900 BC, contemporaneous with the late Rigvedic period. And then late Harappan, that is after the 1900 BC, you have the late Harappan. Of course, it is 1900 to 1300 BC. So there are variations, like some say it is ended by 1500 BC, others say it is ended by 1300 BC. So there is a variation there. Start with the 1900 BC and then continuously. And then you have the Aitihasic age, which is corresponding with the early part of this late Harappan, a little bit overlapping with the Rigvedic period, Aitihasic age at 1950 to 1700 BC. So in this time bracket, you have Sri Rama, Shantanu, all these people dated to around 1940 BC, and Kurukshetra war at 1793 BC. And the Pandavas, and after that, 36 years after that, Dwaraka submergence, and then the rule of Parikshit, then Janamejaya, then Shatanika, and Ashwamedha Datta, the great grandson of Parikshit. So they were all completed by around 1700 BC, maybe 1650 BC, etc. That is the kind of chronology I put. So I put the arrows here because in the Harappan civilization, you get Kubha River or the Kabul River as one of the boundary river of the Harappan civilization, and correspondingly we have got Kabul or the Kubha River in the Rigveda as the westernmost river, and in the Harappan we get Ganga as the easternmost river, because the easternmost site in the Harappa, that is Alangirpur, is between Yamuna and Ganga, so very almost touching Ganga. And same thing you get in the Rigveda, the easternmost river is Ganga. So you have very clear correspondence between the Rigvedic geography and the the Harappan geography, especially the mature Harappan geography, because Rigveda ended by 1900 BC, mature Harappan ended by 1900 BC. So if you look at this entire both Rigveda and the Harappan by the mature Harappan, they have correspondent, geographical correspondent. Most of the researchers don't focus on it; they ignore it, and this is why, especially the Western scholars also ignore it, and some of our exaggerated chronology, with Mahabharata at 3000 BC or at 5561 BC, they ignore this particular geographical picture, because if Mahabharata is older, then you should be getting the all the cities should be covering all over the India, or at least half of India. The entire Aryavarta should be the Indus Valley, but that is not what we are getting. We are getting the Rigvedic geography in the mature Harappan geography. So mature Harappan is corresponding with the Rigvedic period, and even the geographical extent, if you look at Afghanistan in the west to western UP in the western UP in the east, both for Harappan culture as well as for Rigveda. Similarly, from north to south, we have Afghanistan in the north and Gujarat in the south. So the geography as well as the chronology of both the Harappan civilization and the Rigvedic river maps, the entire Rigvedic region. That is, the Rigvedic region is the rivers defined in the Rigveda, all the rivers mentioned in the Rigveda. So that is the Rigvedic region. So the easternmost river is Ganga, and the westernmost river is Kabul River. Kabul River also is mentioned in the Rigveda as Kubha. So of course the city of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, is on the banks of this river. So you have complete correspondence in the chronology, like as I mentioned, early Harappan to early Rigveda, mature Harappan to late Rigveda, and geographically the westernmost river, that is Kabul, both same for Rigveda as well as for Indus Valley, and the easternmost river Ganga, both same for Rigveda as well as for Indus Valley. So this is a very clear signature, and it is very difficult to brush aside this particular signature. And this is an important message both for the people proposing Aryan invasion or Aryan migration theory, the Western scholars, as well as our homegrown indigenous scholars who break the this particular correspondence and put Mahabharata and Ramayana in some very improper chronological positions, like 3000 BC or 5561 BC, where you don't have any geographical match, no geographical signature match, no chronological signature match, like that. Yeah. Now we slowly enter into the subject matter. So I just put it because while I discussing this research on the IndusScript, a lot of people are a little bit confused about the terminologies that is being used. So these are the few slides are focusing on the terminology first, so that the subsequent discussions will be a little more easy to understand. So what is our most first important point is that a script can evolve independently of the language that use them. So script and language are not 100% connected. There is no one-to-one correspondence between a script and the language. For example, the cuneiform script was used by Sumerian language, Akkadian language, and even Elamite language, so many languages. So the first and foremost, because there are a lot of people who are upset with the decipherment of IndusScript with Sanskritam, I should say to them that the script, IndusScript even though it is confirmed to be a Sanskrit script, it can actually render even Tamil or Dravidian words as well using the IndusScript. Of course, because the Tamil or Dravidian phonemes are a subset of the Indo-European, Indo-Aryan phonemes. The sounds in the Indo-Aryan, they have more different kind of sounds. Like you have this as this retroflexes, etc., which are actually somewhat simplified into a simple form, like ka and ga. All this gets simplified into ka. All these things are there, so it can render, of course, but it can render Dravidian language, but it will be more or less nouns, the names of it. Grammatically, it may be difficult. The grammar, it will be difficult, but names of people, names of Dravidian kings, those can be rendered using IndusScript. So that they can get some kind of solace that IndusScript can indeed record some Dravidian names apart from the Indo-European name. But in terms of grammar, if you look syntax, if you look, it is encoding in this Sanskrit kind of a language. So that is why I want to first put this point that script is independent of language. So you can actually, there can be, like, for example, after the complete decipherment, we may even find out some Dravidian words inside that. So current, whatever I understand from the point of view, the decipherment, after cracking the code, around 33% or somewhere around that number of scripts are correctly deciphered, and then more scripts awaiting decipherment. The methodology being same, but awaiting the decipherment. So it may not be a surprise if we find some Dravidian words in that. And types of scripts, so that is very important. So you have alphabetic, abugida, and syllabaries and logographic script. So alphabetic is kind of whatever we see in English language, Latin alphabet, Greek alphabet. So that whatever in fact, this is English we are written here. So the alphabet. This is alphabetic script that in which this presentation is. So in that you will have every symbol representing a single phoneme, but most importantly, both the vowels as well as consonant get equal representation. So A is a vowel, L is a consonant. So they are all represented by equal in nature. So A, L, like that. So alphabet, that is alphabet. This is alphabetic script. And then abugida is, again, it's very easy to understand for all the Indian listeners, because all the Indian languages, whether it is Tamil or if it is Sanskritam or Hindi or Malayalam or Telugu, Kannada, everything use abugida, because you have each symbol represent a particular sound or a consonant vowel combination. And this is the way we write almost all the Indian languages. So that is the kind of difference. And in case of abugida, there may not be so equality between the consonant and vowel, but they will be represented, and mostly consonant vowel combinations you can see. And then you have the syllabaries, where each symbol is represented as a syllable. So for that, we don't have any familiar language, but Japanese Kana language, ancient Mycenaean, Greek Linear B, which is recently deciphered, and Sumerian, Akkadian cuneiform. So that we will going to see. Mayan script, then Cherokee, all these things, these syllabaries. And we typically require more symbols than abugida for syllabaries, because it is a little more primitive in nature. And logographic is even further primitive, or for the oldest form of writing. So each symbol represents a word or a morpheme. So, for example, one symbol itself can represent a word. So then, of course, this Chinese characters, Egyptian hieroglyphs, so this will require more symbols. So because for thousands, we'll have millions of words. So if you want to represent millions of different words like water, wood, fire, like that, you have to find out that many number of symbols. So that is the inefficiency of the logographic script. So in terms of evaluation capability, you can say logographic is little oldest and the most primitive, then syllabaries, and then abugida, and then alphabetic. Or maybe alphabetic and abugida are equally capable, because now we are we are actually seeing that Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi are on par with alphabetic scripts, which is like English or Roman or Greek. So they are almost advanced, but syllabaries and logographic are a little bit primitive, and syllabaries are in between. And then you have one like category called abjad, where only consonants and vowels are not used, only consonants. So, for example, for representing the Muhammad, for example, MHMD, it will be written MHMD. So we have to read it with the vowels. That reading will be like the responsibility of the reader. So that is the kind of abjad. So, for example, Arabic, Aramaic, all these ancient classical Arabic, everything is in that. So this is the nature of the scripts, and then you have other definitions like what is a syllable. So it is a kind of consonant vowel combination. So example, I give an example in banana. You have ba, na. These are syllables, whereas letters are you can have 6 letters, B, A, N, A, N, A. So syllable is a little bit kind of a bigger entity than letters, and it is composed of consonant vowel combination. So that is a syllabary. So for example, that is a syllable, and syllabaries basically represent that combination. So someone in a syllabary language, you have a sign for ba, another sign for na, another sign for na, like that. That is syllabary, and Sumerian, etc. are like that. And then you have the what is called morphemes. No? So individual parts of a word, like for example, unhappy. So un is a morpheme, happy is another morpheme. So it's a kind of sub components of a word basically. So that these definitions are good for us to go through the in depth. Then you have Abugida, or no, that's a little more. I can say this Devanagari when you put it right. So the symbol ka represents that in Devanagari if you wrote it. It shows ka, and then if you put a little bit the vowel symbol, it becomes ki. Similarly, another symbol that become ku. So this is the Abugida kind of writing. And then there are conjunct consonants like cha. So for that, a separate symbol is there. And there is slight difference between Abugida and alphabet. Right, in alphabet you have vowels and consonants equally represented, and in syllabaries with each symbol representing a syllable like that. So Abugida is more or less combining these syllabaries and alphabet. So that is the kind of nature somewhat in between like that. And another thing is agglutinative and fusional language. So in agglutinative, you have the morphemes that retain their original form while combining, so it will easy to get meaning. Whereas fusional language, Sanskritam or in Hindi, all these things, your morphemes or the words that represent these language aspects like your number, gender, tense, case, etc. So they are transformed. They transform and they don't have the same form. For example, in the agglutinative languages, like I can put an example of Malayalam. So you have guha as one noun or word, and then if you want to make it plural, you have guha kal. So then it becomes plural. So the word kal, it will never undergo any transformation. It will always be the same. And if you want to say that coming towards the caves, you have to make it kal ilekyu. So ilekyu is towards, and these constituent words kal ilekyu, they are never transformed. They always remain the same. And there are even word order is important. So for example, you cannot say guha ilekyu kal, because the kal has to be always prefixed with the noun guha. So the word order is important, and the words never undergo transformation. Whereas in the fusional language, I have not given an example, but anybody knows Hindi or Sanskritam. If it is a male, may aya, or if it is a female, may ai. And then if it is a past tense, if it is a future tense, if there are multiple people, there are variations. So the affixes never remain the same. And most of the, especially in Sanskritam, the word order doesn't make any big problem. So we can put the word order in any manner. So this is very important because when we look at the IndusScript, so for example, even before deciphering the IndusScript, you can actually, any language expert or script expert can understand whether the language is representing an agglutinative language or a fusional language. So that study is already done by many other researchers, and they found.
Can I take a minute, sir, with your permission?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for our audience, the agglutinative language, for example, Telugu is an agglutinative language. Let us say kukka. Kukka means dog. So dog, kukka, the plural becomes kukkalu. So the root word kukka doesn't change. Lu gets added. Just like in this example, sir gave like guha plus kal. Guha doesn't change. So also kal doesn't change. Whereas in a fusion language like Sanskrit, let us say kukura is dog. But kukura, kuram is dog. Kukuraha becomes, so the last R gets changed. So you can see the clear difference between fusion language and agglutinative language. So what Jijith sir says is, based on his scripting results, the IndusScript represents more an agglutinative language than more a fusion language than an agglutinative language. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes. So that's what I am putting it very early. So no, we can see it's a kind of, even Steve Bonta and others have discovered this particular understanding, that this particular peculiarity of the IndusScript, that it is actually representing a language which is fusional and not agglutinative. Because if it's agglutinative, you will see some signs for that, or some evidence or some clues in the script itself, where it the different signs are adjusted with each other. There we can easily detect whether it is representing an agglutinative language or a fusional language. And current understanding, all the studies with a lot of thousands of the inscriptions lean towards that it is representing a fusional language. But we will go through it maybe in a short while. And I'm just also putting some of the introduction. So the why this IndusScript is not deciphered for such a long period of time. We have been hearing it for more than a century. So one is the IIT-IMT paradigm. So because of which they say the Indo-European language came here in 1500 BC. Then automatically you disqualify the Indo-European, that is Indo-Aryan language, that is a technical term for Vedic Sanskritam. So typically you avoid thinking about Sanskritam being present in the Indus Valley. So this is also one of the reasons we derailed the decipheration. When you have a wrong paradigm, like migration paradigm is wrong and chronology is wrong, then typically it will affect other researchers, like for example IndusScript decipherment. So once you avoid this paradigm of IIT-IMT, then you have the possibility of even think that Sanskritam may be existing during the Indus Valley civilization, and then you get ultimately end up in the correct decipherment. Then there are preconceived notions like IndusScript is a Tamil derivative. Of course, it's also depending upon the IIT-IMT paradigm. So actually, if there is no Sanskritam or Indo-Aryan language there, the people assume that it is a Dravidian language or a Tamil or something like that. Again, we have been almost 100 years. We have been trying to decipher it using Tamil. So totally, we have gone 100 years with maybe hundreds of researchers. So 100 into 100, around 1 lakh man years is spent to check whether this script is Tamil or Dravidian. That much we have already spent. And then assumption that IndusScript is logographic because it's very ancient script. So typically, I said primitive scripts are typically logographic. That means every sign will represent a word, just like Chinese or like that. But that is again derailed our decipherment. And then another thought process was that the Sumerian is like oldest writing. Typically, everybody says that Sumerians discovered the writing. Everybody else copied the writing from Sumerian. Like Egyptian case, it is genuine. But we cannot extrapolate that and say that IndusScript also derived from Sumerian. So a lot of people tried with Sumerian and find out patterns in Sumerian, try to apply it in IndusScript. So these are all lead to failures. And so a lot of things are ignored also. So we already know there is a connection between IndusScript and Brahmi by so many researchers have reported it. that induscript look like very close to Brahmi. Brahmi letters have close similarity with induscript. So these are ignored actually, not well studied. And then not only this Brahmi script, you have the induscript kind of inscriptions on coinage in the post-Bronze Age, in the Iron Age, in Mauryan and even Gupta period coins. You have a resemblance of the writings on the coins which are resembling induscript. But all these things are ignored. And then how would I compare it? Because my area of expertise is in the Rigvedic study. So I say there was a similar kind of paradigm problem where our traditional scholars said there is no history in Rigveda. Just one shut the door because of so much of research was not happening. But after the Srikant Aligar has opened that door and says that there is history in Rigveda, and then we studied Rigveda and then compared it with the Western text and then Mitanni records, and we got a nice out of India theory out of based on that single change in the paradigm. And then he also has created or completely established the out of India theory. Still, the mature form of that out of India theory is there from 2008 onwards. Because of stonewalling and because of the people are reluctant to change from their existing paradigm. Even that this particular, it is also another kind of decipherment of the chronology, which is still not yet accepted in the Western. This is something like a kind of politics entering into the research, but unfortunately it is true. So this is more or less like no history in Rigveda kind of wrong paradigms which affected the induscript decipherment. And then see, I didn't stop at that. There are possible Dravidian connections. So because in my studies, especially I primarily focus on Indo-European, but some studies, preliminary studies on the Dravidian. So there is a new theory coming of the Elamite origin of Dravidian in Iran. Of course, it's competing with the South Indian origin. But then I have studied a lot of folklores, which are like indicating a migration of the Dravidian people from Gujarat. And Gujarat happened to be in the kind of a midway between any kind of migration from Iran to South India, etc. So there is a possibility. It can be true or it can be false, but a lot of evidence point towards Gujarat as one of the source of even in the Sangam literature or in the flood myth. There is a kind of correspondence with the floods and submergence events happened in Gujarat. Apart from this Kumari Kandam kind of Kanyakumari submergence, there is Dwaraka submergence and other submergence events and happened in Gujarat, which is also like you can see through the bathymetric studies, etc. Large scale floods and submergence events in that area. And some of this, for example, if you think about some of the myth, if you analyze the myths or the fables, there you can see a migration from the north to south. One example is Parashurama getting the land from reclaiming land from the ocean. So this is the oldest record is on Shurparaga, which is the northern shore of Maharashtra, and it is progressively you can see that same myth connected with Konkan, Goa, Karnataka, Tulu, and then Kerala also. So there is a migration pattern you can see. Then Mahabali's myth, the Vamana Mahabali is connected with Narmada and Burgukacha, Baroch, one seaport in the western coast of the Narmada in Gujarat, southern Gujarat. So that tradition, like slowly getting transposed into Tulu and then finally to Kerala. That also we can see. So there is a kind of migration of myths. Similarly, some of the Tamil myths connected to some clans trace their ancestry from Gujarat or Dwaraka or from Yadavas. I think it's a similar kind of stories I get from Karnataka and Telangana or Andhra Pradesh as well. There is Anthaga and Anthaga connection. Anthaga is a lineage of Yadavas. So many such connections. And if you look at there is a kind of migration that is proposed using the Elamite Proto-Dravidian from Iran to South India through Gujarat, and they may have passed to the southern IVC. So even though the northern IVC side, the northern IVC geography is covered by rivers, which are well having Sanskritam names like Saraswati and Sindhu. Of course, they travel into the south also and merge with the Arabian Sea. But other rivers like Parushni, Asikni, or Vitasta. So these are all covering the northern Indus Valley civilization region. So we have reasons from Rigveda also apart from the induscript decipherment and Sanskritam, we have a reason from Rigveda that these are all dominated or populated more by the Indo-European, Indo-Aryan people. Whereas in the southern side, if you only two rivers are there, which is having a Sanskritam name, that is the Indus, Sindhu and the Saraswati. But we don't see many number of rivers after Gomal. Gomati is the southernmost river with the Sanskritam name. Typically, you see slightly Dravidianish kind of place names, etc., in the southern part of the IVC, which means the southern part of Sindhu, Balochistan, and then Gujarat, etc. And we don't see very less number of representation in the Rig Veda for these places. So there is a possibility that there is a Dravidian population, and this is a speculation basically, that is there in the southern part of the IVC. And this also make them familiarized with the Indus cultural elements, and they can carry forward it to wherever they migrate, like all over the South India. So there are certain construction methodologies that we tested in southern India, which are like having correspondence with the Indus Valley. So that is kind of a possibility. And then Brahui is another puzzle piece. There is a competing theory for Brahui as a Elamite origin and versus Central Indian origin. The Elamite origin means they traveled from the Elamite region, which is the southwestern Iran. And Central Indian origin means they are one of the Dravidian languages in the Central India, migrated to this Balochistan. So either from Elamite Elam location in the southwest Iran to Balochistan, or Central India to Balochistan. So that is the condition of Brahui. And then if you look at the chronology of the Proto-Dravidian around 4300 BC, it's originated, which rhymes, right? It connects, it rhymes with the Indus Valley, etc., decipherment period, etc. And then, of course, it diversified into Proto-North Dravidian, Proto-Central Dravidian, and Proto-South Dravidian around 3000 to 2000 BC. And Proto-North Dravidian, we have Brahui part of it, and other languages. And there is a kind of speculatively we can say whether it is a language of the South IVC, we can speculatively we can say. And then Proto-South Dravidian split into two parts. One part Telugu and Kui around 1100 BC. The dates are like kind of highly flexible, so not to be considered as absolute. And then Proto-South Dravidian to Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, Tulu, and etc. Then Tamil Kannada split around 1500, 300 BC. It's a big range, so it can happen any time. Then you have the last stage of the Dravidian family is the Malayalam split from Tamil around very late in 900 CE. So this is kind of, so all these languages may contain some kind of glimpses or kind of flavors of Indus Valley culture because of their presence, that is proposed presence in the southern IVC region, which have less representation in the Rig Veda, like that. And then the other points like Markov process. So this Markov process is very much used in the this decipherment. The language is considered as a Markov process. It's like a sequence of possible events in which the probability of each event depends on the current state compared to the older states. So in a simple terms, what happens next depends on the state of current, the state of now. So if you follow Markov process and define it as graphs, like graph is a concept like in the mathematics you have a concept called graph. So flow is something like a flow chart. So if you put it, you can define every aspect of a language into a kind of knowledge graph or a process, basically a process. Graphically represented, the process graphically represented, so you can actually construct words and sentences based on a particular process. And the basic premise is that whatever is the current state from which the next state is emerging. So that is where we can actually have using Markov process we can actually get the basic attribute of a language from a script without even deciphering it, or even you can see high level attributes of a language by studying it through Markov process. And you have allographs. So this is a concept where same letter can have multiple variations. So this can happen because different people thought to write the same sign in different way because of evolution or because of different regions, regional variations, etc. So same letter or sign or the same letter representing a same sound can have multiple forms in script. That is allograph. And then there is a concept of redundancy. So that is the excess use of symbols in a script, because languages are created by human generated languages. All human generated languages, we don't really care whether how many number of letters that you require to represent the meaning. So you typically invent more and more letters, and in every word you will have redundant letters, yes, which are actually not necessary, but still you can read. So that is called redundancy, and typically it is typical for all the human languages. Redundancy is zero in computer languages, because these are machine languages. So machine will get confused when you have redundancy. So they have very kind of less redundancy, but in human languages you have redundancy, and for Sanskritam it is around 0.7. So these values also we can use statistically to guess the language of a script. Then you have entropy, that is the quantity of information gained by making choices. You know, equivocation, that is a like kind of inverse of the redundancy. There is available meaningful choices which can make about an unknown, about the unknown. Or while deciphering, then one sign can have multiple sound values, and initial stage we don't know that. So that is the equivocation, that is ambiguity. So there's a measure of ambiguity actually. And then you have if you have a zero equivocation, that is even equivocation formula becomes zero, then a cryptogram is said to have a unique unambiguous solution. So this is again we will see while we are going through the paper, we can see. And then what is cipher? It is a secret, or it is a secret code. No, that is the mathematically called a cipher. So that means a puzzle that needs to be solved. And cryptogram is a single substitution cipher, means you solve the puzzle step by step by first finding some part of it in the initial state and substituting that particular part that you deciphered. Then you using that substitution, because you know a part of it, then you start getting deciphering the remaining part, like that. So every step your progress is increasing. Maybe the first difficulty is to find out the first piece of the puzzle. Once you solve that, then things become a little more easier. Then you get the second piece. Then using first and second piece, you find the third one. And then you have three pieces which you know. Then using that three pieces, you can get fourth one. Like that, you go ad infinitum, and finally you get everything solved. That is a kind of a scriptogram that we can say. So using that, you can decipher language, like something like a very complex thing like an induscript also. Then there is a key space concept, that is the number of possible keys of a cipher. Actually, these are like kind of indirectly representing the number of assumptions that you make. And each assumption is a bit of information. For example, if somebody assumes that induscript is talking about metallurgy, everything in the induscript is about metallurgy, that is an assumption, and that becomes a key. And the key contains certain information, because you are pumping information in for the decipherment. Like the assumption that the induscript is completely about metallurgy is an assumption, and it's a kind of representative, like you can represent the key space. Or assumption that induscript is cuneiform modified cuneiform script, that's another assumption. Assumption that it is Tamil. So everything, all these kind of assumptions also becomes like slightly represented in the form of a key space. And then there is a plain text concept. It is simple. It is very simple. The text obtained after deciphering a cipher is the plain thing. Then you have a unicity distance. That is the length of the deciphered plain text, that is equals the information content of the key. So for example, the key space that we use, that is the assumptions that you set up, array of assumptions that you set up to decipherment, contains certain information. But after deciphering, the whatever information you gain, it should be bigger than whatever the information that you have in your assumptions. Otherwise, your decipherment is a dubious decipherment. So the unicity distance define that whether your decipherment is correct or wrong. For example, if the equivocation that we have mentioned, it becomes zero when the cryptogram has a unique solution. And any other decipherment which don't have this capability, that is lesser than the unicity distance. So that is the problem of even older decipherment have all the previous decipherment have this kind of problems actually. Then what is a Rosetta Stone? Unfortunately for induscript, we don't have it. It is like an undeciphered script, and there will be some ancient translations which we can relay with, that side by side. Like For example, in case of a cuneiform, we got kind of a Rosetta Stone kind of thing where some cuneiform lines of cuneiform inscribed, and it is represented in two other languages, well-known languages, something like Persian, etc. So then you can actually decipher it very easily. And in that case, the Rosetta Stone act like a kind of a lever to overcome the unicity distance. So in the absence of Rosetta Stone, typically all the decipherment based on assumptions will be having a unicity distance. I mean, your decipherment will be lesser than the unicity distance. And any kind of reliable decipherment across the unicity distance, and that is actually the kind of proof of correct decipherment. For example, over all the decipherments, logographic, earlier the assumptions like it is logographic, logosyllabic, syllabic, like Parpola mentioned intersecting signs. He said like two bangle intersecting kind of a sign is there, where he thought that it is a bangle, but it could be anything else also. So there is a kind of possibility like that. It can be infinite possibilities. Then Mahadevan thought like it is similar to cuneiform and hieroglyphics. So that is an assumption. And then he has very famously mentioned the Mohenjo-daro translate to Kukkudarma, like that, the city of chicken or Hokko, like that. Then Kalyanji, he mentioned the indus script may be related to metallurgy. So there are certain kind of assumptions. S.R. Rao, actually, he have borrowed a set of similar looking signs and tried to decipher it. Then there's logographic substitutions. Also, a lot of people have used detecting looking logographic. So some words are logographic in nature, means it cannot be converted into an alphabetic or this syllabary or anything. It has to be kept as a word representation. For example, in our own tradition, we have Om symbol. It is more or less like a logographic, like that symbol represents some people represent that symbol, it's a logographic, but of course it has a kind of logographic meaning also, but people just take that symbol and then use it for representing divinity. So that's an example. And if you have a logographic substitution, maximum you may be deciphering some nouns, but it cannot explain grammar, syntax or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, there is one more. This is the one last sign for basic. So what is a sign? So again, some people have a doubt. So any kind of schematic or visual representation of a letter. So letter A means there are two inclined lines and a central horizontal line. That is a representation. That is a sign definition. But a glyph can be like different ways of representing that sign is a glyph. So for example, in English, like when you are writing in MS Word, you have so many number of fonts, so A can be written in any manner, like this. So that means human eye can easily detect that this is like all different variations of A, but for a computer it may be difficult. So that is the typical glyph means a multiple representation of the same sign. And in IndusScript you will see glyphs like same sign represented in different stylistic variations, evolutions, etc. You can see for a same sign. Then you have a digraph that is a combination of two letters to make one sound. For example, sometimes you have two letters come together. For book, for example, B and then two O, you can see, or poor, like that. When you say there are two O, double O, like that. It can be heterogeneous, like A, or C. It can be kind of a combination of a consonant also. So two letters or two signs representing a single phoneme. That is the digraphs. And then segmental language is more or less similar to your Abhiguda as a segmental language, where speech sounds are made up of discrete units, segments that can be identified in a stream of speech. And similarly, segmental script, they can represent there are two types. One only consonants like abjad, like in Arabic, or segmental script where you can have consonant and vowels like abugidas. These are all segmental scripts you can have. Consonant only is a kind of simple to inscribe, but difficult to read. Whereas this abugida is maybe, I don't say difficult to write, but easy to read, like that. Then you have ligature, that is in your cursive writing, like your handwriting. You have two more graphemes or letters are joined to form a single glyph. One example of current example is like when you are doing a typical writing, when you will use a running letter, etc. So connections will be there between letters. So, but in case of induscript also, you can see a similar kind of thing where inscribing one letter and without removing the pen or the scribal device, you will have other letter. So that is a ligature kind of things. Your the symbol, that is a very small sound, kind of very unstressed vowel. Like for example, in rhythm, if you think about a sound between the and then ma, so there is a small sound, that is the swa sound, and then you have a this syncope, that is basically the deleting of that particular small sound. So this is this particular terminology will be important when we are looking at the induscript. Then you have the boast of Fedon, that is writing from left to right, and after the end of the line, you will start writing from or starting writing from right to left, and after the end of it, you start from left to right. So alternating between the direction alternation. So we see these kind of things, etc., in various kinds of scripts. So I think I gone to the this side. I don't know whether I'm moving very slow. But anyway, I will maybe speed up the presentation and complete. It is, I think, we have whatever.
We have no problem with the timing, sir. I mean, please go at your pace. Yeah. So we have not at all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So because I put this few slides on the cuneiform, because there is a big kind of question on the induscript whether it is coming from cuneiform. So cuneiform is basically a logographic, logosyllabic kind of this system, where some initially started as a logographic script with pictures, etc., like 3100 to 2900 BC. And then more or less it becomes syllabic, like in 2600 BC is a key important year of cuneiform. And this is the kind of inscriptions that you can see. It's basically kind of wedges. These wedges are called cunas. Cunas is a wedge-shaped impressions, so that they use. So almost so all of these are like typically straight lines in horizontal, vertical, or inclined manner. So that's what it's a kind of language. It like these kind of symbols create some meanings, and even phonetic. Earlier in later stage, it will represent some sound also. So that's a kind of beautiful kind of methodology that they have used. And writing direction is typically seen as top to bottom and right to left. And we have the initial language, the oldest language in Mesopotamia is Sumerian. That is what it this script was used for, like inscribing Sumerian. And then later in around 2400 BC, it is used by Akkadian, the another language very close to the Sumerian. They're all in the Mesopotamian region. Then Hittite in the 2000 BC. And then so many other languages like Elamite, Hurrian. These are all Indo-European languages, Hurrian, Luwian. Last stage is Old Persian, where they adopted. In fact, many people don't consider the Persian representation in the cuneiform as actual cuneiform, but a modified one actually. And you have a cuneiform tablet in use as late as 75 CE. And then oldest clay tokens. I didn't see I put the picture here, but clay tokens are the oldest form. And they were used for recording the livestock commodity. So initial purpose was account keeping. There was no writing per se, but it is all pictures actually, or some signs. And these are seen in Uruk and Susa in 4000 to 3100 BC, more or less contemporaneous with induscript, but in a very different geography, far away from us. And then they started creating numerical tablets where they just put some markings to represent 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Again, account keeping, 3500 to 3350 BC. Still, proper writing in the sense of we know writing has not started. And then pre-cuneiform tags 3300 to 3100 BC. Then pictograms. So all these are still now it is pictures. That is 3300 to 3000 BC. Then rotated pictograms. They started rotating the picture from horizontal to vertical. And then abstracted glyphs. So Only when you have abstraction, typically it makes sense to call it as some kind of a rudimentary writing. So that happens in 2600 BC. And then you have a tablet with syllabic elements of a non-IE agglutinative. So Sumerian automatically tells you that it's not an Indo-European language. It is not Indo-European. It is a typical agglutinative language. Of course, Sumerian. It can even represent Dravidian, also an agglutinative language. So the script itself tells you the nature that it is representing an agglutinative language, that is Sumerian itself. And this happened by 2800 BC. And it is still pictogram based. So pictogram slightly changed only after 2600 BC. And pictogram containing some phonetic values. So once you have phonetic value, more or less, we are very much close to calling it as a writing. And it can record abstract ideas, names, etc. And then 2800, 2600 BC, the sign reduction, it's again a sign of intelligence, more intelligence. Then the total number of signs reduced from 1500 and to 600, etc. And they started using determinatives. So determinatives are like special signs to indicate that it is a god, the name of a god or a country or a city, vessel, birds, trees, etc. So many categories are there. For that, each category there are determinatives. And then the proper names of people or places are written in a logographic manner, means one sign represent one name, etc. So initial stages it is logographic, and then slowly even in a syllabic format also sometimes it use logographic elements, the mixture actually. Then the pivot, as I mentioned, pivotal period is 2600 BC, and the earliest king is represented by this I don't pronounce it properly, so he's a king of Kish, so in 2600 BC. So this is as far as cuneiform is concerned, 2600 BC is the most happening period. And then account keeping slowly changed to the recording acts of kings each year for a different city. And then the Egyptian hieroglyphics, so I didn't extend my research onto it, but Egyptian hieroglyphics branched off from the earliest form of the cuneiform. And they also have the logographic methodology abstracted from the proto-cuneiform and copying the idea of recording language using pictures and scribing. So it went to Egypt. So we have clear evidence for that. But similar evidence are not there for Indus Valley. That's what I'm stressing it. And then archaic cuneiform, that is the terminology that we use from 2900 BC to the linear cuneiform. It's a new version where the stylus changed actually. Yeah, and then this particular linear form existed till 2000 BC. And then next stage after archaic is a early dynastic cuneiform, where the wedge, this is the wedge shape, wedge shape started coming up. The wedge shaped stylus to write on soft clay, and it is an innovation basically. So 2600 BC to 2500 BC, the innovation started, faster and easier writing. And it
could I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
So I thought, Egyptian hieroglyphs are older than aren't they? Than Sumerian.
If you look at if you actually look at the proper cuneiform, maybe Egyptian can be older. That's what I'm saying. That Egyptian inspired by Sumerian abstract proto cuneiform. So proto cuneiform is older than Egyptian, but cuneiform per se may be contemporaneous or little later. That is the kind of thing actually. So they during the proto stage they have copied it actually.
Okay.
That is a consensus because even the Egyptians may say no, we have invented it separately. That's a different matter.
Right.
But we have a consensus saying that.
Okay.
And then from the archaic cuneiform, then early dynastic, and then shift from logogram to syllabogram, natural, because logography is the oldest method. So moving to syllabography, actually. And then so slightly, for example, the earlier concrete symbol, sign of an arrow, started encoding the sound T. That is a kind of intelligence, and then the phonetic change actually. Encoding sound,
yes,
rather than words, etc. Then syllabogram then started expressing grammar, and we will see same thing now when we decipher induscript. We will also see the similar kind of transformation. So they started expressing grammar, and then there is this particular problem is there. Like typically, one sign can represent multiple words. That kind of problems are in this Sumerian. And because of that, decipherment of not decipherment, but interpretation of Sumerian has ambiguities because the sign for tooth, mouth, voice, everything use a pictogram for a mouth. So these kind of problems are there in the Sumerian script cuneiform. And same sound multiple sign problem that is also there. Like single sound, there are multiple the gu, the syllable gu is have 14 different signs. This feature you can see in the Indus also, but this kind of feature is very rare in IndusScript. The ambiguities are very rare. And then compound sign creation, that is mouth plus water. They started representing drinking activity by combining mouth and water, like that.
Okay.
And then the recompounds, I'm just skipping it. It's again a kind of special kind of compound where you have abstract meanings. The constituent components you create constituent components and derive a totally different meaning out of it. And there is a lot of kind of assumption, later assumptions involved in it. So only thing all this shows the sophistications coming into the Sumerian cuneiform and the nature by which. And then after Sumerian dead, like Sumerian language died by around 2100 1700 BC, the script continued, and that script is used by Akkadian. So you can see here Sumer, Akkad, and other Mitanni, Hittite, all the other Elam is somewhat connected with Dravidian. So all this Egypt is here, Mesopotamia is here, Canaan, all these things are here. That is Israel and Anatolia and Caucasus, all this. So here the language died, Sumerian died, then Akkadian started using it. So Sumerian Akkadian cuneiform, and it started recording sounds of Akkadian. There was a lot of transformation required for representing a new language. All this happened in 2300 BC. But some of the older forms are preserved, and that is called Sumerograms. And then you have different dialects of the Akkadian that also represented by the cuneiform. And then some abstractions happen, like only 5 edges, like you can see the as symbol, etc. Now you can see in that a symbol is a horizontal wedge. So there are only typically few signs, horizontal, vertical, incline, etc. So that simple writing become very simplified. Then came Elamite. So it's a Proto-Dravidian like language from southwest Iran, and we mentioned it in correspondence with the origin, one of the origin of Dravidian. So Elamite also used the cuneiform script, and then Elamite cuneiform. Then Hittite, that is an Indo-European language. Again, Hittite also used the same cuneiform script from 1800 to 1300 BC, where we were having the late Harappan period. The Hittite started using the cuneiform. And it contains akkadograms and sumerograms, like older forms. Sometimes they retain, and then other Indo-European languages like Luwian, Hattic, all these things have used cuneiform. So it was used for multiple languages. And then the last stages, you have the Hurrian, Urartian cuneiform, 2300 to 1000 BC is very late, and some adaptations. And then at last, this Neo-Assyrian and Neo-Babylonian, as late as 600 BC, when we have the Janabada period. Then you have the Aramaic coming in, totally replacing the Akkadian. So that is the time this cuneiform got discontinued, but it still continued in Iran by the kings and empires as late as 75 CE. And people, there are records, people reading it even from 300 CE, very late period, etc. So this old Persian script I mentioned is a derived script. Like famous kings like Darius, 5th century BC, they have used it. Already nature changed into semi-alphabetic syllabary with very few logograms for gods and kings, etc. And then in terms of the total number of inscriptions, they have they have a problem of plenty. There are 2 million tablets, and even the British Museum.
Can I interrupt you? So today's Persian uses abjad or alphabet?
Which one? But today's Arabic script means it is abjad, but currently the new script of Arabic it has got all the vowels, everything.
Okay.
Yeah, they have improved on that, right? Okay. So that's the difference. Even the old versions of Quran, you cannot understand the vowels.
Okay.
So so this is one problem with the cuneiform. It's a polyvalent script, that is transliteration or current translations become ambiguous because of that. Only an expert can translate it, because there is a Dinger sign, right? It is a multiple horizontal lines. It is a God determinative. It defines a God in Sumerian, but it has different meanings, like the sound an or ill sound, etc. in Hittite, for example. So depending upon the language, the context will change. And 1000 signs to 600 sign reduction, but even then there are 1500 sign variations. So it's a bigger set than the IVC, typical of a kind of this logosyllabic script, because it requires more signs. And most important, this is a very important point I want everybody to focus. It is a base 60 numeral. And we have found in IndusScript, it is a base 10, that is decimal numeral. So I am putting all these points because I am basically saying that the IndusScript is not evolved from Sumerian. First of all, there is a chronological difference that I mentioned. 2600 BC is their pivotal moment of Sumerian. So people get automatically carried away by saying that Sumerian invented writing earlier. But when you go into details, you will see that is not helping us to tell that Sumerian was the source of IndusScript because of all this chronology. Second problem, the numerals, base 60 in Sumerian, and in our case, IndusScript, it is base 10. And of course, the language encoded into the Sumerian is an agglutinative, whereas in the IndusScript, it is a fusion. So these are all the like different reasons why this IVC is not derived from Sumerian. And this usage, general accounting, recording law maps. But later stage, it is diversified even to encode religious stories. Like, for example, we would expect IndusScript to record Rig Veda, something similar that happened. But in the earlier form, it is account keeping. And this is why the earlier decipherment of IndusScript assumed it is completely about account keeping. That is because we inspired from the Sumerian studies. And this is one possible IVC connection I have unearthed from the study of the Sumerian literature. There is one, this particular poem, Sumerian epic poem of Enmarker and the Lord of Aratha. It is dated in 1800 BC, but it's talking about earlier period. Like it could be talking about 2600 BC or 3000 BC. We don't have to go by the dating of 1800 BC, but it is talking about an ancient event. That is a Sumerian king called Enmarker have a conflict with the king of Aratha. And my studies in the Mahabharata, I have convincingly proved that Aratha is the northern IVC. Because in the Mahabharata, the Aratha region is mentioned as have land of 5 rivers, Punjab. It is directly mentioned as Punjab with the 5 rivers flowing. So that is the rivers like Parushni, Asikni, Vitasta, Sindhu, and there was one more river called Marudvritha, which is dried up. So total 5 rivers. That is the Punjab region. That is both the Indian side and the Pakistan side of the Punjab is very clearly defined in Mahabharata as Aratha. And in the Sumerology, they don't know the location of Aratha. So, but we know where is the location of Aratha. It is the northern IVC. And of course, southern IVC is typically called as Meluha, etc. So you have the entire IVC covered by 2 terms. One is Aratha, in the like 2 terms in Sumerian. One is Aratha for the northern IVC and Meluha for the southern IVC. And there, this in that particular poem, you have this the invention of writing is credited to the Enmarker, that is the Sumerian king. But since we have these all correspondence with the Aratha king, it is possible that the Sumerians acquired this writing methodology, the concept of writing from, or they may be starting the sign pictograms earlier, but the idea of representing sound using sign and even representing grammar and other things, like whatever is the literature, oral literature, we can represent it in writing. That invention probably might have come from Aratha. That is what I am suggesting. That because these kind of poems are there connected with writing is associated with Aratha in the Sumerian literature. That is the biggest thing, surprise actually. So contrary to Sumerian originating writing to IndusScript, alternate rivers also possible because of this particular literature analysis. So of course the entire story is like this, because the messenger sent to Aratha, now he cannot remember everything. and he cannot repeat the message that is sent to Aratha. So there's a lot of Kulabala is basically a marker himself, that is Sumerian king. He took some clay tablets and put words into it. That is means inscription. So he started inscribing words into the clay tablets. And until then, they had not been put. They don't know to put words into clay. So this is the kind of literature that you can set. The surprising element is Arata mentioned in it, and our identification of Arata with the northern IVC. So now I will go to the IVC side, and you can see the writing was some of the crucial steps of writing has happened earlier than the Sumerian, where they started. Of course, pictograms are equal, like 4000 BC for both Sumeria and IVC. Both are 4000 BC. But the crucial steps which led to representing the oral literature, oral communication into written communication, that crucial steps might have come because the chronology for that in IndusScript is earlier, and chronology for that in Sumerian is slightly later. So because of that, the transfer could be from the Indus. I am just putting it as a possibility as an alternative, that it could be from IVC to Sumerian. Like some of the discoveries, important discoveries could be from IVC to Sumerian, even though each of the civilizations started the writing almost the same time. And the kind of evolution of writing and the nature of language, they both of them recorded. All these are different, and the base symbol, the base of number system 60 on Sumerian and 10 in IndusScript. This all shows that independent evolution. But for crucial steps of inventions, there could be some input from the Indus script to Sumerian. Because anyway, they are representing two different things. So we can't say there is a direct copy, but ideas can get copied, not the script, not the methodology. We don't claim any of this getting copied, but the basic idea can get copied in this manner. And because there is a slight ancientness to the symbols, for example, un symbol and us symbol that is present in the script is slightly earlier than the similar un symbol and us symbol in the Sumerian. So, for example, this Dinger sign is also called the un symbol, the symbol of Anu, or Anu means the sky god. Of course, in the Rig Veda, you see, Anu is the ancestor of the Anavas, who are represented as the Danavas and Daityas and Asuras, and who migrated from as per our migration theory, they migrated from Punjab or the Chenab River to Afghanistan and Iran. So in our side, when we study, the migration is in the east to west direction. So the un symbol, we don't exactly claim that this un has some direct connection with Anu, but the kind of terminologies are very surprising, because they use the Anu word for the highest god, and then that un symbol is used for representing divinity, and there is a similar us symbol as well, and similar kind of un and us symbol also found in IndusScript. So there are certain elements that are common both in the IndusScript as well as Sumerian script, which we cannot deny, at least some symbol names. But if you look at the chronology, we get later IndusScript have got a little bit earlier chronology compared to the Sumerian, especially for the kind of invention of representing sound or words, spoken words into writing. That's what I am putting. So I have finally I put the equation Arata equal to Punjab as per Mahabharata, and that is equal to IVC, to precisely northern IVC, like that. And this is a beautiful map of the Sumerian civilization. Just like we have Ganga and Saraswati, they have the Tigris and Euphrates, or rather I would say just like our Saraswati and Sindhu, two rivers running parallel, they have Tigris and Euphrates, and more or less a brilliant civilization which is to the west. Iran and Afghanistan, they are mountainous countries, but Indus Valley and this Tigris Euphrates Valley are plains, where the fertile plains where you have civilizations like that. So I don't want to go into details. And one last thing, this is what I am talking about, the chronology. If you look at the settlement, more or less, they are all started even 7,500 BC or 9,000 BC, just after the Ice Age, when the agriculture started, both in Mesopotamia and Sumerian. But you have the crucial cities, because many people downplay Birana. That's what I put by Birana here. It is 7,500 BC, and it is towards the Haryana side. and you have Meragar at least 500 years later than Birana. So even the cultural migration, typically they put Meragar and say that it is 7000 BC, and they say migration from Mesopotamia to Indus Valley. But we have one breaker for that migration pattern, that is Birana, which is 7500 BC, little more earlier than Meragar, pre-Harappan site, which is in the Haryana. So we cannot accept that all these culture civilization spread from Sumeria to Indus Valley, because you have sites which are older and which are further east than Meragar in the Haryana. And this Birana is on the Saraswati river, on very close to the banks of Saraswati, and so that's very important for us. And you have Rakigari and etc. So even in the Mesopotamia, you have Eridu as one of the main cities in 4000 BC. Starting the start of a civilization typically. Of course, there are pre settlements which run into 9000 BC, etc. But this is where the crucial point is. This I just put like that. Now we getting into the meat of the this particular. But maybe I took a lot of time for reaching here. But the most important thing. Just one question to the listeners. After seeing all these pictures, what do you think the language of the IndusScript? Because just look at this, because normally the people hide, or maybe I don't say hide, but people don't focus on this. You have a Shivalinga from Kalibagan in 2200 BC. You have all these very, the bull, very sacred animals, elephants, and then yoga posture. Then there is a yogi priest. Is a priest actually. So all these things talk about actually it is about Samskriti. It is actually about our culture, what we call Samskriti, and naturally the language of Samskriti is Sanskrit. So if you actually with an unbiased mind, if you look at Indus Valley civilization, without Yajnavedam deciphering it or somebody struggling, you can automatically get that it is not Sanskritam language actually. But anyway, leave that apart, because our thinking is clouded with so many research like paradigms, etc. But I just put this picture so that even a layman can just look at it and automatically assume that the language could be Sanskritam. But leave it. So I now in getting into the Yajnavedam's IndusScript decipherment. Maybe if it may be a little bit complexity, then I will just gloss it over. I will say there is one methodology for the listeners, because once the video is out, you can stop the slide, the pointers in the video, and whatever I am not speaking, you can stop it and read it in your leisure. So because for want of the time to conclude it in a kind of reasonable time, I just maybe gloss over. But anybody can stop while your YouTube video is running, they can stop it and read it with any amount of time. Having said that, I am just continuing. So the first I'm just putting different aspects of Yajnavedam's and just decipherment. The most important is that it is found to be Proto-Abhiguda. So I'm just giving you the final result in one single slide. And the writing direction is right to left, mostly right to left, but there are exceptions we have seen. There are writing from left to right, and then most of it all where after right to left, then go to left to right. All these things are there. And then it is found to be a segmental script. So I already explained what is that. I am not representing. That's why I put the basics in the very slides in the very beginning. And it has got consonant and vowel signs. And this is the surprising part where everybody is debating that IndusScript is found to be encoding Sanskrit. There is something like a bombshell that has come out. And then we have this Brahmi script is, we have another discovery. The Brahmi script is standardized IndusScript. And this we got from earlier researchers like Sullivan, etc. Then there are allographs. I explain what it is, like same sign, different representation in the writing. And composite signs. Some signs are composites. And then there are 77 allographs are the most recurring. And it also this statement itself will tell you that it is a Abugida, if you know some basics of the language, and not a logographic, because we have repeating signs. Then deciphered IndusScript, the methodology, decipherment is a large cryptogram. I have explained what is a cryptogram. And then using Claude Shannon's criteria for credible cryptogram decipherment. That is what it is using. and the sign decipherment using the mathematical or computer programming concept called regular expressions. Set instructions, set theory. I think I don't know. I mean, didn't put it in the basics, but set theory is a kind of a domain of mathematics, a field of mathematics, and regular expressions as well. And then you have the kind of conclusive features that decipherment can read any inscription in the corpus. So, and already 500 plus inscriptions are translated now, and it contains around 50 plus longest, 50 plus shortest, and 100 plus composite sign inscriptions. And then some other there are 4,300 plus attested in. See, compared to the million in the Sumerian, you have 4,300. So we our
sorry for interrupting, sir. Sir, actually, it is the number is changed. Around 37% is translated right now. And
yeah,
in comments is asking a question. Is Harappa means Aryavarta?
No, the Mahabharata, actually the proper pronunciation is Arata. There is no Aryavarta. I mean, for example, Mahabharata is too old enough to talk to say that it is Aryavarta, no? But instead this form Arata is seen in that. But your point is valid. But see, even in that, within Mahabharata itself, they are mentioning it is Arata. So there are certain explanations. It means Arashtra. That means there is no Rashtra concept. Like no, people have feudatory kings. Like the Nagula Sahadeva's uncle Shalya is mentioned as an Arata king. He is the king of Madra, and Arata kings typically maybe I don't know. The current understanding is Arata is a short form of Arashtra. Arashtra means that the Rashtra concept is not there, where you have feudal system. So there is no king per se, but there are certain feudal landlords, etc. So that is the kind of concept of Arata, and of course this is in the this particular information recorded in Mahabharata, which means the core Indus period is over, and then we are actually in the late Harappan period. So at that time they were feudatories, and this makes sense because Indus Valley civilization declined in that Madra, Kekeya, Gandhara region after the Rigvedic period, and typically that will be represented by some chieftains like Shalya, Shaguni, etc. So that is the kind of things that they mentioned in Arata. We will maybe after the. I'm really worried. I can complete. So after this, we can go for more questions. So. So I mentioned about this. Yeah, this particular number, I agree that this will be changed. No? This will be changed every day. The decipherment will be crossing 33%, 44%, like that. And of course, these are very small things like 3 into 3, 4 into 4 kind of small seals. That is why it has got a quality of coins. Now, coins are a little smaller, but always comparable with the Mauryan or the Gupta kind of coins. And then the induscript is found on seals, tablets, and then attachable tags, signboards, no? The Tholavira signboard. So many different media. And like I mentioned, the seals resemble later coins used for currency. So maybe a currency usage is there for induscript, we don't know. And trade transactions also it will use religious purposes we are using. So like that. And this is a chronology that we have compared to the Sumerian. Therefore, the earliest Indus seal in 4000 BC in Kunal, and graffiti on potsherds in this Balakot, and then seals continuity after 1900 BC. That is late Rigvedic period or our late Harappan is very. I mean, mature Harappan is very less. And then seals with induscript found in this 3500 to 3000 BC. And some kind of consistency achieved by 2600 BC, but this may be like equal in nature to the Sumerian, but this particular value, I mean this particular period, this predates the Sumerian, and proper induscript with a lot of abstractions, which means evolution happened already there in 3500 BC or even 4000 BC, which means we have a little bit chronological upper hand in terms of writing. And there is a Indusite Thar desert. This is the kind of migration of the Indus. No? The Thar desert sites are abandoned. Basically, this drying up of Saraswati, and they move towards Himalaya. And in my chronology and my books, actually, we can have a very clear this migrated pattern of people from Saraswati moving to Yamuna, Ganga, and then ascending the Himalayas, etc. My books, 3 books, it will have it. And then this migration continued till 800 BC. That is IVC sites. And then induscript, no, the post-Bronze Age, the continuity. Brahmi is one of the big example. The induscript continuity. The Varanasi coins, Mauryan coins, then megalithic sites as late as 50 CE. So you can see resemblance with the cuneiform here. And then 89% of the megalith symbols connection with induscript. B.B. Lal himself have found it. And in Kiradi, this is again controversial. The Indus graffiti is found, and then it is found to be transition to Brahmi only around 100 BC, because there is a dispute about the 600 BC inscriptions, whether it is representing Sanskritam or Tamil, like that. So that descript, let it continue because I'm not commenting here. And then Gupta era, it's up to 400 CE. Gupta era, there is a continuity, for sealings. Seals and ceilings are like the mirror images of each other. Seals are like a positive, and the ceilings are like the counterpart of it. Actually, I forgot to put it into the basics. And then the mixed Brahmi inscriptions. So it is there on OCP copper hoard, then found in Iran, Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, everywhere. So you have a full continuity of the induscript, which many of the researchers have ignored actually. And this is the basic claim from Yajnavedam, the unicity distance. That he crossed the unicity distance, and it is a proof of correct decipherment. And this is the only decipherment where you don't make wild guesses, like it is a cuneiform evolution, or it is metallurgy. No kind of basic assumptions are made. And it is a mathematical model-based system, and computer program algorithms, etc. used. And decipherment is totally complete, and it's a partial decipherment, similar to Steve Bonda's decipherment is considered as partial, and again result is Sanskritam, but partial decipherment, and programmatically reproducible. And then both the inscriptions, Semitic and the mixed inscriptions in IVC, all these are readable because of this discovery. And there is a full correspondence with the induscript with the Brahmi also. We can see, even you can see it in the Yajnadevam paper, that this correspondence is put. And explanation for allographs. So allographs are discovered by earlier researchers, but there is he has put a full explanation for why it is, what are the nature of the allographs, all the things. And then more ancient, Dholavira signboard. So it shows, it was meant for the ships, from faraway ships, to read it from a large distance, indicating that it is representing some language, some readable text, like that, like our billboards, for example, but readable text actually. And there is a writing on the pottery, personal items, tools, weapons, bangles, etc. There you can see Indus, that or Indus was a literate society. And then you can see mixed Indus and Brahmi inscriptions all over India. And these are all shows that it is a writing. So basically, the primary question, whether it is only a pictogram representing only pictures, or whether it is actually a writing. So that is what addressed here. And I have this one of the intermediary thing, very important, cave inscriptions in 1500 BC. It's a midway between Indus and Brahmi. So many people ask, there is a big discontinuity after Indus. Brahmi comes somewhere around 500 BC. What happened in between? 1,000-year gap. So there are certain data points which actually bridge that gap. So these are some examples. And then Iravatha Mahadevan, the pioneer of the Indus studies, he have defined the 417 signs, and there are other sets like 700 plus signs, IC, IT, and other. And some people count it even including minor variants, so then it becomes 1,000. So even after that, it is not as big as the Sumerian set. That's again like in difference, And 71 signs, this is a discovery from Yajnadevam. 71 signs are the oldest, and the most later signs are their variants. So this is how the allographs kind of things comes up. And inscriptions up to Harappan phase 3 shows 71 signs. And 71 signs is also a sign of an intelligence, because limited number of signs representing a language means that is a very intelligent. like this Abhigoda kind of, or Proto Abhigoda kind of, for syllabic language. That's coming up actually. And even though we don't get any soft medium, there is a kind of very clearly we can understand the soft medium was used for first, the signs are written in a soft medium using brush and pen, and then the scribe is putting it in a hard medium. So this we can understand by looking at the sign. And then the high frequency of certain signs, and that automatically indicate it is a kind of segmental abhigoda. And alphabetic also ruled out because of this, the syllabic or the segmental abhigoda, but not alphabetic, because of certain parameters. Like you can read the Yajnavedanta paper for more details. I'm not going into further details because already we are covering a lot of details. So, and you can stop these slides in the video and see more also like that. And then the other, how he derives, the Yajnavedam derives the this methodology, the syllabic or phonetic is like a model that's a cipher. So I explain what is a cipher, and then you use
sorry to interrupt, sir. Jijith sir joined our panel. I just want to make a welcome.
Oh yeah, great, yeah, yes. So it will be great if he is also.
Yeah, he is in the panel. Thank you very much for joining the panel, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, please. Sorry for the disturbing, sir. But please continue.
Yeah. So congrats, Yajnadevam. So we are it's basically this is based on his paper. So this it will be very clear to him as well. So basically there is the language is a Markov process. So we have already explained it, and we have the subset of the process representation as a residue classes, and the methodology that he is using is the dictionary method. And of course, all this evaluation in the science, everything can be mitigated using that, and compared to the frequency method. But I understand that Yajna also use the frequency method in like partially, for example. He can maybe after the session he can explain that. And the language choices. So first he took the Tamil, of course we all will be doing that, and then Sanskritam also taken choice. But then after looking at all the parameters, the Dravidian is lacking most of the words for IVC, and then Proto-Dravidian, the Proto-Dravidian was thought of it, but it's a very risky thing, because there are only 800 words in the reconstructed Proto-Dravidian dictionary. And then in the Tamil language, you don't have the triple repeating kind of things. I think I have given a kind of examples, but I don't know where it is. So we'll go through in the other slides. It will be short. So certain formation of the words rules out Tamil, but morely favors more the Sanskritam more. And of course, Dr. Steve Bonda tried with Tamil and later switched to Sanskritam. And there is a multi-stem compounding that is again shown in the description, representing a fusional language like Sanskritam and not an agglutinative language like Tamil. And of course, the Markov process of Tamil, like any agglutinative language, is different from the induscript, which support the fusional languages. And the chronology, but we have seen the chronology in the differently through my books. The possibility of this is what one of the biggest blocker for anybody to consider Sanskritam as the possible language of induscript. So, but we have even from the latest theories, the Indo-Iranian split by 4,300, 4,000 to 3,500 BC. And of course, the paper assumes that this split, all these things happen in the Indian territory, in the Indus Valley territory. So, but otherwise, even irrespective of where it is, we have the possibility of the language split, etc. Leads to a possibility that the Sanskritam is spoken in IVC. Of course, if you follow the out of India theory of Talagiri. And of course, the other thing, the continuity of Indus Brahmi to mixed inscriptions, all these things. And now, if this is a triple symbol I mentioned, the triple symbols can indicate directly in God Sanskritam, because you can have word formations like jajaja or lalala or sasasa in Sanskrit, but not in languages like Tamil. and then Sumerian reference to IVC as Meluha, and who builds ships carrying large animals. So that is one capability of Meluha. Meluha, as per my understanding, it is southern IVC, and Aratha is the northern IVC, like that. And these are all so Sumerian connection, and then there are settlement wise both Sumerian settlement in IVC and IVC settlement Sumerian. So there are interconnections, and there are names that I put a kind of a slide in the letter where some of the Indo-Aryan names like Vipra, Adipra, Samara, Soma, etc. seen in the Sumerian cuneiform seals, etc. So again, the correspondence indicates the less it is less Dravidian and more leaning towards the Indo-Aryan, that is Sanskritam actually, between correspondence between Sumerian and IVC. So this is the steps to solve the Indus cryptogram. So I didn't put that formulaic methods, etc., for which you can go through Yajnadevan's paper itself. So I have in a simple layman term, detect the language, determine the cipher, solve one sign by pattern matching, substitute it, and recheck. So it's a substitution method cryptogram, and solve each sign, subsequently repeat until fully deciphered. So it's something like a loop can do. And start with the shortest available seal with a common sign, and then there is a kind of bootstrapping used. So I am not reading all the things that we can stop the slide and go through, and then reject simplification, the adjustments that are required in the dictionary, and then also into the sign. So here, the methodology used is sibilant flattening, dental and retroflex, and aspirant and unaspirated, and voiced and unvoiced. Now, these are all reduced to kind of a single sign. And this is natural because, see, we have to understand that IndusScript, it's a kind of, even though it is not 21st century, it's like a very ancient period, and the writing just started. So then you need some simplification method even to represent a language like Sanskritam with all these retroflexes, dentals. In fact, I forgot to put one slide on that entire map of the letters in Sanskritam, which are like dentals, retroflex. It's basically nothing. Like you have the the first row of the consonants, and then second row. So once you have that map, you will understand what is this sibilants like Yara, Lava, and then the dentals and retroflex and aspirants and unaspirated. It would have been if one map would have been made it very easier, but otherwise the aspirated and unaspirated signs, etc. It's always present in all other languages, maybe except Tamil. Other languages you have all the 56 or 50 plus letters to represent all these sounds. So some kind of, you can say, some reduction in the representation. So all the sounds need not be represented, but we can have some simplification that has happened actually. And this particular simplification is also assumed in the rejects definitions as well. And here maybe this particular point there may be a kind of maybe a different researcher can have a different method, but I am not going into the details. And so other things like some virama handling. So unless there is some simplification that is assumed in the IndusScript decipherment. And now the other slides that we have, basically it's the basic methodology that has been used. I try to represent it as much as possible. That starting with the sign classification. So starting with the Mahadevan's four ones and signs, but on top of that some simplifications leading to that 71 or 76 allograph. That has happened in the decipherment. And the stylistic variations and regional variations are considered. Like for example, this jar sign. There is 0 to 4 numerical strokes you can see in the jar signs here. So this particular jar sign is a kind of allograph which represent one value like an or anu or anuswara, etc. So it has got these variations, and there is a kind of reason for this that also he has explained. We'll go into the other slides as well. And then there are mirrored signs like the bracketed signs and conjunct signs like this, and then sign abstractions. You can see the abstraction happening here. And then the styles are not mixed. Typically, they are not mixed together. So that is another evidence for that these are stylistic variations. Maybe except maybe that fish symbol. And then the methodology automatically correct. If there are some errors, it will correct. And the first deciphered sign is the jar symbol, jar sign. And the first value, the sound value, that is it represents an this the anuswara, whatever anuswara, that is the end point, ending like that. And you get the value for this particular sign of repeated 3 times repeated jar as ananam. And then it has multiple possibilities, like instead of an, it can be aj or some. So that is resolved by another seal where you have a single sign ana, and like that this value, phonetic value of the first sign is resolved, and then other signs are one after other using substitution. It is repeated until all the signs are deciphered. So result is there are 76 allographs, and induscript is a proto-abigoda segmental script, and there is a default sound value. Typically, like in our own today's languages, the R sound is inherent in all the default as a default sound. And if you have a small slight difference from Brahmi is a little more later script, so it has signs for retrofitentals. But in case of Indus, it is not there, like some simplification. And words in Itihasas and Vedas are found. And the same content, induscripts content is similar to whatever you see in the Janapada coins and Gupta era seals. And there is a motto or slogan like that here or there. No? This Sangara, Shankara, Varayanabhya, like that, Shiva's blessing, Shivam Brahaspade. So these mottos or slogans, that is what in content of induscript. And even the pictures that come along with the induscript, they follow the, some people ask the question, why you are not deciphering the picture. So the explanation is there if you compare it with the Gupta seals, there also is there. So nobody asks similar questions for that. It's a kind of style like that. And there is the issue, there are deities mentioned in the Agni, Vishwas, Rudra, and then these constellations, Aslesha, Bharani, and some of them are in the Rig Veda also. And this is the kind of stylistic variants I mentioned. So there is this the variants, like this particular merchant symbol, not this many number of variations, insect, spider, the Ashtapada, and the variation is like that. All the variations, chariot, leaf, this Bilva Patra. So all these things are there, and including this, and then the other very religiously important symbols, etc. You can see. And here now. The methodology that he has used, for example, translation of certain signs, it will lead to Parna, for example. So Parna is the leaf. The translation will simply say it is leaf, but it can also be the name of a person. In fact, I can see so many names like that in the late, in my dating, the late Rigvedic, the Ramayana, etc., where the Rituparna and other people are there. So it can be names. Then these are found in short seals similar to Gupta era membership tokens, like that. It's correspondence are there. And then the naming of signs, this is very interesting. I have seen that he has discovered or arrived at different all the different reconstructed names. So I have put a table in the last part of the slide where every sign, Indus sign, got a name, and the name actually represent that sign itself, like that. So Ayuga means one, Ayu means man symbol, Ajasringi, the god horn, etc. And then allograph in the induscript could be due to that mispronunciations. When the name of the sign was transmitted orally, but the other explanations is the dialectic variations of the Indo-Aryan. So there are different theories about that. And then the Aya dialect used in the script with the different phonetic variations. This is a possibility. And similar to the Prakrits, different Prakrits during Mauryan and Gupta era. So similarly, there could be dialectic variations of Indo-Aryan speakers. while the induscript is being created or evolved. Then the numerical stroke signs. So again, very important. Now it is found to be decimals, decimal numeric, and they are all represented by strokes. So this is the kind of picture where you can see the R represents the ayuga, and there is 1 here. V represents 2. Then the other numbers are like Traya, Chatur, Pancha, Shad, Sapta, Ashta. So the names of the numbers are encoded actually, because these again these can be used along with the non-numeric signs. So that is the kind of thing seen in the induscript, and it is using a decimal system, because 11 the sign with 11 strokes not there. So again we can see the decimals, the 60 base of Sumerian and decimal system of the Indus. They are both totally different evolution. So we can say that Indus is completely independent of the Sumerian cuneiform. And then numerical signs invented later, then the non-numerical, and then distinguish using spacing, stroke, inclination. So how do you distinguish the numerical signs? That is also there. And then repeated vowels. How to make a long vowel. Now we have the and if you are IAST notation, you put a dash on top of the A, and you can have that long vowel. But here the sign is repeated to make it a long vowel. And to read as a can be read as like that. And the special vowels, an and as, that we have seen in the Sumerian. This is the an and this is the as, that is anu and ashtapada. And then the diphthong, that is the sign mixture, like that also we can see some, in very rarely I, all these things are seen. And as I mentioned, retroflex, that is ta and da are made into dandals, the ta and da, like that. And aspirated, aspirated kha, gha, cha, ja, tha, dha, all these are reduced to the basics, non-aspirated, ka, ja, like that. Then sibilants, sha, sha, sa, ha, all these are interchangeable, including h, ha, it is interchangeable, and as also. And they can also come in way, to represent the visarga, that is ending. And this kind of feature also seen in the Sanskritam, right? Nominative of affix sa becomes ha. All these things you can directly see in the script. And again, this leads to the Indo-Aryan dialect in IVC, like that. And comparable to the Mauryan Gupta Prakrit, Sena, Shena, Rajja, Raja, like that. And among this, jar signs which we have seen here, all these are interchangeable, but this particular sign typically is usually associated with the nya, that symbol. And then the conjunct signs, that like that. One sign above the other. On the Matsya there is another roofed fish symbol. So that can have a different phonetic value, like ama, like that. So there are 100 conjunct sign values that is being used. And then the directional mark. This is very interesting. Right to left, left to right. Now there are and the apostrophe and all this properly indicated in the induscript. For example, compared to these Egyptian Phoenicians, which can mirror, induscript cannot do that. And how do you do this directional markers? Is using jar symbol, for example. The first jar sign will have highest inner strokes. So you have seen the strokes inside the jar symbol. Like that, the strokes. So the directionality indicated by the jar symbols, inner strokes, and using that you can define determine the direction, and like that you can have multi-line apostrophe and etc. And this is the style variant detection. How do you do this style variants? How do you detect it? So that's kind of explanations. So here actually you can see the sign evolution, like how the long horizontal signs are rotated and become vertical. So basically reduce the space. Or you can have this is abstracted. Ashtapada is abstracted as 8. And I really wondered this symbol 8 because it's been used for numeric Ashta. to define Ashta like that. Then you have this. This is the abstraction that we have seen. This is simplification, like complex science. Then the cursive variant science, no, that is also we can see, which can be useful for while working with a soft medium. You can see here now the reduction in the complexity. You can see here, and vertical lines, the straight lines become curved lines. You can see, and then another space reduction methodology, because the seal surface is very limited, so the scribe has to make use of the maximum. So the anuswara is omitted, or the double signs get merged into single double consonants to save writing space. And we have a correspondence in Brahmi where the anuswara is represented dot, again to save space. And this is examples for stroke reduction in soft and hard media, and only for soft media, and also for this is ligaturing. Ligaturing means the continuity, like this symbol continued into the other one, like that, like your running letter, like that. And in terms of fidelity, the induscripts have more fidelity. The cuneiform not typically have multiple transcription possibilities, so that is not the case here. And fidelity is comparable to Tamil Brahmi, but not to. I mean, this should not be taken as a kind of evidence for Tamil, but in terms of simplicity, the Tamil Brahmi also reduces the signs. Ka can, while you are speaking ka, you can represent it as kha, etc. So similar kind of fidelity you can get. And Yajnadev has found there's inscriptions in iron pillar where some of the simplifications in the induscript is already represented, like your murtaya, the ta, instead of double ta, it is single ta, and that denotes an, like pramshu, written as pranshu, etc. So this is kind of a continuity we can see from induscript. And this the technology export. So this is like Mesopotamia Dilmun in 2600 BC. Like we have seen in the previous slide, right? The Arata, the communication between the Sumerian king and Aratan king. So this goes along with this connects with that, our assumptions. And there are 121 seals, and out of which 27 have induscript. And with the Sumerian in the language actually, and old Akkadian and Akkadian language. So this is also another evidence which we can use for transfer of knowledge or ideas. Now there is a most complex reading, that is conjunct symbol reading. There is some methodology that is used. Like this is the conjunct symbol, and it is read as separate signs. This one I like this, and this one like this. Now where there is an embedded sign inside, one ashtapada in that, one spider inside this jar, like that. So that is read like this. So there are rules like read in the direction of writing. That is this one, and top to bottom reading, and big sign first, and then the embedded sign. Like this is the big sign, and then the reverse direction, of course, like that. And here I mentioned about the names. Like this is not a full set, but if you go to the Yajnavedanta paper, you can get the full different. This jar symbol is having a reconstructed name of Amshu, and I would even connect it with Anu. That is the jar symbol, and then this like the Dhanush, Dhanwa, and then this is Ayu, then this is Ishtika, brick. You can see the E actually represents the English letter here. I don't know how it happened. Like then double E for E, long E, etc. Then there is a wheel, this Ratharin, like that. And then what is interesting, there is another version of Ayu here, another man. And then the Shashtapada, that is a representation of the spider, simplified form. So many like that. Fish symbol, Matsya. Where is a chariot? This Ratha. Very interesting. And these are some examples of derivations that more details you can see in his paper. And I will expect him to speak after this session. So this is just one example I have given, right? How the decipherment, the substitution-based decipherment This is the first decipherment of the jar symbol, and use no, subsequently it is used for deciphering others. All these things you can get. So I am not going into details because anybody can pause it and understand it. So this is a kind of snapshot of the the shortest descriptions, because these are troublesome descriptions, but of course very important in the initial decipherment of individual signs, and then the sign variants. And here are the interesting translations, where now the longest seal, seal which talks about this ocean, this honor the powerful roarer, ocean, yield to the capable man. So Yajnavedam consider it as a kind of abstraction of the Rigvedic Sukta, or the verse which is recorded in the 5th Mandala, 45th Sukta. I also told him that it has some kind of resemblance with Sri Rama coming to an ocean and asking the ocean to subside, like during that Lanka episode, not going to Lanka. For that they have to construct a bridge. So there also the ocean is asked to subside, and Rama was very angry. So he was almost like Rudra. And then similar kind of, I just give a few examples here. So I just putting all these things so that both the skeptics and the supporters of Yajnavedam can understand one thing: the complexity of the decipherment that has been undergone, and the amount of work that has been put into this decipherment. So the people can have a debate or a doubt about individual decipherment, for example, whether it is exactly this, but there should not be any doubt about it being Sanskritam. That is the kind of point I have to stress. And there is no doubt about the amount of effort and the kind of complexities here Yajnavedam has solved. So that is where I got impressed with his research work. So there is the directional markers, the jar sign directional markers that I have mentioned. So this jar sign, right, the rightmost one have more number of strokes and the left one have less strokes. So the direction is like the left, this right to left. But here, if you look, the right endmost have more strokes. Now, other strokes are not there, so you can see that it is a left to right. So like that, you can even detect the sign direction. And this is a kind of snapshot of the non-Sanskrit Indus seals from Mesopotamia and Dilmun. This kind of a knowledge transfer. We can even consider it as a kind of evidence of knowledge transfer, etc. Encoded language is Sumerian, and then old Akkadian and Akkadian, etc. is used here actually. So as I mentioned in the very beginning, the script is independent of a language, so it can even represent at least the nouns of another language, even Sumerian or Tamil, etc. Like that. Yeah, but grammatically, it should stick to a language, like for example, Sanskritam, like that. But of course, a little bit rudimentarily, it can represent other. And here is another evidence, like mixed Brahmi. It's again a provisional reading. Again, this is also provisional reading. I put PR here. So these are kind of, again, of course, this is a kind of now currently discussed, and pro and con is being discussed about these readings. But again, there is a very heavy indication that the early the Brahmi we got in Tamil Nadu, in Kiradi, etc., encoding Sanskritam or the morphologically modified Sanskrit words in Tamil, for example. These are the kind of possibilities. But Yajnavedam agrees that some of the words, names can be Tamil names as well in that. Okay. This is about the directional word boundary variations, like the sign the okay, the same thing, like the mark variants. There is stroke difference in the stroke signs. So this single man character, the ayu, there are this many number of variations. Now this one a, again a symbol of a, the variations, etc. And this is the kind of correspondence between IndusScript and the Brahmi. So you can very clearly see Brahmi and the IndusScript side by side, and how much close it is between the Indus and the Brahmi. Here you can see like that. This is the sword deletions I have mentioned earlier. and the kind of table showing the discovery of the distinct signs and allographs, and then the sign value and the reconstructed names. Yeah, we have seen it, but now this is in a kind of a different table format for each phoneme, how it is different, like that. Yeah, this is a kind of full set of the phonemes and their glyphs. So I is represented all these different ways. The dirgha, the long A, represented like this, etc. And this is a kind of, I would say, a kind of great discovery of individual sign and its values. And he has given very good explanations why there are so many number of variations for any single sign, because this was one of the disputed or kind of challenged kind of outcome. But you can see similar kind of one sign, multiple, one phonetical value, multiple sign, even in cuneiform. That this kind of things are there. But compared to cuneiform, ambiguities are lesser in the induscript, so that I consider it's very, very positive. And then what? Yeah, this is the name of people of Meluha and goods from Meluha recorded in Sumerian. So this is again, earlier we have seen the induscript recording Sumerian language information. Here it is the Sumerian recording the some of the names, and they are Indo-Aryan names like Samara, etc. Arguably Indo-Aryan names, and then names of items, trade items like meshi, that is sheep, not the like that. Then country, the Meluha is easily represented like the Mela, like that. Yeah, and this is very important. I think this is one of the most important of his. Like he has collated all the previous decipherment and its primary conclusions. He is validating all this. So it is something like your unicity distance, which he has put as an important parameter for the success of his decipherment. This is another thing, another success, because he is able to validate so many other discoveries of the previous, his predecessor. Like Mahadevan said that the primary direction is right to left. So he got it right, correct. Like primary direction is right to left in Yajnavedam decipherment. Parpola mentioned that contains allographs. So allograph discovery, again he got it. And this non-IVC language inscriptions in West Asia that he is validating. Then language is Indo-Aryan, that earlier SRO, even Rajaram also said this, because Sahana Singh told me that Rajaram also tried it in a very early period. So he got it, Indo-Aryan language, that is Sanskrit. And then induscript and Brahmi are related from Hunter and from Sullivan. The Brahmi sign in induscript have identical values, that table we have seen. Again, he has validated, and Steve Bonta, that the semiotics suggests the Indo-Aryan language. Again, he got it correct. And this one, I would say, because the Haggerty doesn't agree that the Sanskritam is in Proto-Indo-European spoken in Indus area. So that comes typically from Srikant Talagiri. So maybe you can add Talagiri is also named here, because then combined jointly Haggerty and Talagiri, then Indo-Aryan and Iranic separated by 2000 BC. Of course, this is from Haggerty, but Indo-Aryan or the Proto-Indo-European and Indo-Aryan presence in the IBC based on Talagiri. That again maybe can be added, that I would maybe say. And then, yeah, this is other decipherments. I think thankfully I reached the end. So here, the other previously, because I have gone through this particular Susan Redalia. So the reason I put it is because her decipherment also indicate the language of Sanskrit. And we have seen in your channel itself, you have seen Nashi Siddiqui. I will consider one positive value from his, that it is he detect language of Sanskrit. And then Manoj Jadhav, who is one of my friend, he also done induscript decipherment, rudimentary level. I don't know how far it has reached. Again, his output was that the language is Sanskrit. And Dr. C. Bonda, he detected the language is Sanskrit. So I would say I will add another layer here, that irrespective of Sri Yajnavedam's decipherment, there should not be any dispute among our scholars that the language is Sanskrit. And maybe this is what I am putting the right hand side. Irrespective of the validity of the individual decipherments, the language encoded into the induscript can be concluded as Sanskrit. Is there a way forward? Like competent researchers need to come forward to evaluate Sri Yajnavedam's decipherment with an unbiased and open mind. outright rejection, that's not very good sign, because there is so much of efforts gone into it. It's not a kind of typical decipherment that you get with a lot of guesswork, where your information is all existing in your keys, the key space, and there is no new information coming out of your decipherment. So compared to that, Yajnavedam is having that, the value, the information content coming out of the decipherment is very high. And he has made a lot of correlations with Brahmi script, with Sumerian, interrelation with Sumerian, etc. And there can be possible refinements. For example, some particular language translation, like script translation, there may be some improvisations possible. Maybe how to do that, I am not an expert, but maybe a kind of an improvised program which can even detect possibilities of Indo-Aryan dialects. Look at dialects, I can see in Rigveda also. No, there is a mention about this Vadrivajas in the Rigveda, means people who speak in a different dialect. So there are people. These are all relative terms. So Sudas and people who are supporting Sudas, like Vasishta says that the opponent team, that is the members of the Dasharajana battle, the 10 tribes, many of the people spoke different dialects. So Vadrivajas, speaking different dialects. So if we can also include programmatically, I don't know how it can be done, but include that dialectical variations. Now that you have a base with the base Sanskritam, allowance for dialectical variations, and then the decipherment can improvise. So there can be possible refinements, possible errors, but what so far he has achieved is brilliant. So with that, I'm ending that presentation, and maybe questions, anything we can have.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for a great work. I mean, your presentation is very superb. Monkey, do you have any questions? Given, sir, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. That's a great presentation, Jijith sir. And really, we are grateful for first to appear here and then taking a lot of time and showcase your work and explaining Ignidem sir's work at the end. And it is highly comprehensive and easily understandable for us from the basics of the script, writing systems till Indus Valley script. So yeah, I'm really thankful. So Ignidem sir, do you want to add something to the discussion, or to you, sir?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Jijith for giving this comprehensive summary is not the right word, but a comprehensive description of my work, and I'm glad that it is understandable, at least to scholars. I hopefully even the lay people will also understand it in the future. But yeah, I don't want to, I let most of the questions go to him because it's his interview.
Yes. So I have a few questions asked in the comments. So one of the question is, in your books, this is about your books. So where does the Sudas who won the battle and the Dasharatnya war, and also where does this come? Where does this fit into your?
Yeah, that's an important question. So geographically, it was on the Parishni River. That is the kind of today it is known as the Ravi River. Looks like my kind of name, but it is pronounced as Ravi. It is a short form of Iravati. So Parishni River in the Rigveda is mentioned as Iravati in the Mahabharata, and the short form of the Iravati is the Ravi River. So it is the Indo-Pakistan border river. So this is where the Dasharajana battle fought. And in terms of chronology, I have derived a chronology based on the kind of reference to Kuru as well as to the Kurukshetra war. And then based on the Kurukshetra war of 1793 BC, which I followed Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar's the dating of the Kurukshetra war is a very solid dating. Based on that, I have given a date for Kuru, the king Kuru. And from there, I got a date for the ancestor of the king Kuru, the Samvarana. And Samvarana I considered contemporary to Sudas. And this equation gives me a date of 3065 to 3165 BC for the Dasharajana battle. So it will be in the late 4th millennium BC. And in that battle, I think something that is connecting with the Yajnadevam is that there is a kind of reference to multiple languages spoken by the different clans which clashed with the Dasharajana, the Sudas. All these clans also got defeated and they migrated into different parts, typically to the other side of the western side of Pakistan. And as per my analysis, they have proceeded further to Afghanistan and to Iran. But the chronology of that is slightly kind of variable. But it more or less aligns with Haggarty's mention about split of the Western from 3500 to 3000 BC. So I get exactly my dating for the Dachrajna battle, which as per Talagiri is also a trigger event for dispersal of the Western and other Indo-European languages to westwards from Punjab. And my dating actually falls into the 3500 to 3000 BC for the split of the Indo-Aryan and the Indo-Iranian or Avestan.
Okay. So this is, I mean, the continuation question. So basically, their intention was, did Sudas fought with the Dravidians, or like it is among them?
Oh yeah, I assumed it as very well. Actually, there was no Dravidian in the Rigvedic picture at all. This other tribe, they are the Indo-Aryan, the Indo-European counterparts of the Indo-Aryans. So terminology we use is the Indo-Iranian, and we call them as Avestans, or Rigvedic terminology is Anavas. So the other side, the Sudha side, is the Paurava lineage, in which a branch called Bharata, in that branch called Tritsu lineage. So Sudhas is basically from the Paurava lineage, and the other enemies are all of them. 90% of them belongs to the Anava lineage, which is the sibling branch of the Puru lineage. So Puru and Anu, they are in the Puranic terminology, they are brothers. Need not be actual brothers, but they are sibling branches, sibling clans. So the Anu lineage is what the Anavas, they are called Anavas. And in the Puranas, they are called the Daityas and Danavas, or the Asuras. And in the Western text, that is Zoroastrian text, they are called the Ahuras. So they are all corresponding and corroborate each other. Both of them are Indo-European language families. So Avestan is almost very similar to Sanskritam or Vedic language with some pronunciation variations. So both of them are in the same family of language. The conflicts was between the same dialectic variations, I would say. Of course, diversified into Avestan and Vedic. So Dravidian is not coming into picture in the Rig Veda, and there was no kind of a conflict between Aryan and Dravidian in the Rig Veda. That is very clear. This is a conflict between two. Taking the lawn word between two Aryans, I would say.
Okay. So my next question is, how do we explain? I mean, we found some IVC script in the Dravidian. I mean, now actually, Ignidem sir has left, but actually, we are almost like certain that it is Sanskrit. Like at least maximum language used there is Sanskrit, or the common language is Sanskrit at least. There might be other languages in the IVC area. There might be other languages coming from trade and commerce, or some other people coming or leaving from there. How do we explain in the greater picture that IVC script is used in the Kiladi or somewhere there? I mean, somewhere down south. So how do we explain that? How does that fit into the whole history? So
right.
Yeah, these people have moved there, or like because of the trade, or how does that?
So I have introduced one slide in the beginning. Maybe you can, when the video is out, you can look at and stop there. So I have put a possible migration of the Ilamo Dravidian. That is Ilama origin of the Dravidian, where they originated from southwest Iran and migrated to South India. That is one of the theory. I don't say the only theory, but one of the theory. Right. So in that theory, there is an explanation. So the IVC from the while they are migrating from the Elamite origin, they pass through Gujarat and maybe the southern part of the IVC, which is include Gujarat and southern part of Sindh and Balochistan. So this is what southern IVC is. So southern IVC, which is mostly occupying the seashore and the Gujarat area. This could be a Dravidian or Dravidian population exist in that area. So I don't say 100% Dravidian, but there is a possibility that a large number of a sizable population of that particular region, southern IVC, can be Dravidian, because they were passing through that region. And even the dating of the passage matches the Proto-Dravidian, that around this Elamite or starting point is around 4000 BC, and they may be in 3000 BC, they may be in this southern IVC, and then continues. Then the 2500 BC, the language split into the three parts: southern Dravidian and central and northern. So there is a very good correspondence. So while this passing, when they pass through this IVC region, they will be acquiring IVC elements. So it is possible that even though IVC is encoding Sanskritam, this Dravidian people might have used it to encode Dravidian languages, not necessarily Tamil, but some ancient Dravidian language, and that kind of continued subsequently to represent Tamil into Brahmi. That is another, that tradition might have continued, so that Brahmi is used to represent Tamil. We already seen in Yajnadevam paper the IVC used for Sumerian. So it is possible, because script is independent of language. Even though the script is initially used to encode a language, later on it can be used to encode other languages. Maybe grammatically it may not be possible, but the names and phrases, the nouns, the names of people, or nouns and phrases, some less grammatically intense phrases can be recorded, which belongs to another language. So this is my theory. And there are, even in Rig Veda, I have evidences for that, because towards the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda, you see so many Dravidian names in that. Irambita, like that one Rishi name, Irambita, Idimbita, like that. So Idimbita is basically a Dravidian, because there is no Sanskrit root for that. So many Dravidian names you can see in the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. And another point I mentioned, when you look at the map, I have put that map of the Rigvedic rivers. That was the subject matter of my first book. In that, you see large number of rivers in the northern IVC, which are represented in with the Sanskritam, Vedic Sanskritam names. But towards the south, you will see a big void. Of course, the Sindhu and Saraswati is flowing into the south and merging with the Arabian Sea. But there are no other rivers which Rigveda is talking about. Of course, but in the actual map, you can see so many other rivers. But the names of that rivers are not recorded inside the Rig Veda, which gives a clue that maybe in those rivers which are further south, after Gomati river, that is Gomal. Gomal is not to be confused with the Uttar Pradesh Gomati, which is a tributary of Ganga. There is another Gomati which is a tributary of Sindhu. Like another Sarai is there as a tributary of Sindhu. There is a Gomati, which is the southernmost river mentioned in the Rig Veda, except Sindhu and Saraswati, because they are flowing into the south. So they are already named. When in terms of tributaries of Saraswati or Sindhu, the southernmost tributary is the Gomati. After Gomati to the south, there are no river names in the Rig Veda. Even rivers in Gujarat are also not mentioned in Rig Veda. But there is indication that the Rig Veda knows about the ocean, because it mentioned about 4 oceans, which correspond with the Rhine of Kutch and the Gulf of Cambay and all the different seas. There is a mouth of Gujarat, Kathiawar Gulf, and the Arabian Sea. So all these oceans are represented in the Rig Veda, but no river names. So naturally there is a void, and that void can be because another language was spoken in that area, and that could be Proto-Dravidian.
Okay. This is again a question from your book, sir.
Yeah.
Are there any places mentioned in Mahabharata or Ramayana which are not in Aryavarta? Like, I mean, the northwestern Afghanistan and all that, outside that, like any from Central Asia or Persia, possibly.
Yes. So in the Rig Veda, there is a very clear eastern Afghanistan is well represented in the Rig Veda. The Kubha river, the Kabul river is mentioned. There is another river called Ashmanvadi, which I identified with Kunal, which is a tributary of Kabul river inside Afghanistan. So these two river names and this is well represented in the Rig Veda. Right. When it comes to Mahabharata and Ramayana, we have to separate the geography into 2 parts: the geography contemporary to Rama and Pandavas, and the geography which was added later by lateral travelers.
Okay.
So in the contemporary geography, that is geography contemporary to Rama, there is Kekeya, which is in Pakistan, currently slightly to the west of Sakala. Sakala is Madra, and to the west of that Kekeya, contemporary to Rama is represented. And in the Mahabharata, contemporary to the Pandavas, Gandhara is represented, which is it is in Pakistan, but to the border to the Afghanistan, the Charasata Valley. And non-contemporary, that is means later evolution. So Ramayana and Mahabharata evolved as late as Mauryan period, etc. So there you can see the names of regions which are as far south, as far north as Siberia is mentioned in the Ramayana. Siberia is mentioned in the Ramayana's Uttara Guru, but the same Siberia is mentioned in Mahabharata as Airavada Varsha. And in the Ramayana, you can see the geography is as east as Indonesia. I mean, not contemporary to Rama, but later evolution. So later people who have traveled up to Indonesia, probably the Mauryan period, using their navy, that is present inside the Ramayana, in the later parts of the Ramayana. Same way in the Mahabharata, entire Asia, Eurasia completely is represented in the Mahabharata in the later portions, because they have given names for different parts of the Eurasia. As far north as Siberia, it is mentioned. But these are not to be considered as contemporary to Pandavas, but as to be, these are like kind of later travelers, and they are found in the later part of the Mahabharata. Like that.
Okay, sir. Any questions?
Yeah, I have two questions, mostly based on Pi language. Sir, they say Pi language, the Indo-Iranian and the Sanskrit language separated around 3000 BCE. But you mentioned Rigveda is from 4000 BCE.
Yeah. See, the Rigveda, the actual date I have given is 3300 to this 1900 BC. That is like the early and mature Harappan. But the upward part of the Rigveda is not well defined. It could start from 4000 BC also. That's what I mentioned. Now, the other question I didn't get. Which language you mentioned?
No, I mean, if it is in 3000 BCE, some IBC seals are found in, some scripts are found in 4000 BCE too. Some of the symbols, IBC script.
Yes.
So, how can the migration happen after that one?
But see, they were the Rigvedic people are living inside the IVC area, na? So I don't know from where to where the migration should be.
Yeah. Hegati and et al. They mentioned that.
Right. So I am not following that. That's what I'm saying. I am following the opposite of that. As per the Srikant Talagiri's like out of India theory. So as per that, these Rigvedic people are residents or the natives of the Indus Valley region. That is, anyway, we don't call it Indus Valley region, but the region between Ganga and this Kabul River. So that was the region which is well defined and well documented inside the Rig Veda by using rivers. And we give a date of 3300 BC to 1900 BC for Rig Veda, and considering it as the point of origin of Proto-Indo-European as well as Vedic language. And we have a dispersal model of different Indo-European languages originating in this area and migrating to the Central Asia and Afghanistan and Iran. And this is a work from Talagiri, which he have at least 2008. He has completed the work with his third book, where he has shown the correspondence of Rig Veda and its migration, which is reflected in the Avestan text, Avestan, that is Zoroastrian text, as well as Mitanni evidences. Because the Mitanni language, as far as this Haggerty and other Indo-European, they don't have any correspondence of Mitanni's language, the nature of the language. But Talagiri has connected the Mitanni language with the late Rigvedic period, because late Rigvedic vocabulary is detected in the Mitanni language. So that means the Mitannis are later to the Rigveda, or the contemporary to the late Rigveda or post Rigveda. Similarly, Avestan also, he has compared the Avestan names, Avestan flora and fauna, and they are found to be contemporary to late Rigveda or post Rigveda, mostly late Rigveda. So in terms of migration, the Rigvedic, early Rigvedic kind of be the oldest Indo-European attestation, and then comes the Western language. So the direction of migration is the reverse of whatever the other theories are suggesting, and so we get it out of India theory. That is what we are getting.
Okay, sir. One more question, sir. In the same, coming to the South India, do we speak any language before 4000 BC? Because you are saying the Proto-Dravidian came from Elamites, and they are also saying some Sanskrit from IVC or something else. But as per my understanding, there are some people in South India even in 4000 BC.
Yes. So the people are there in 10,000 BC also. So because what we know is that whatever all the recent languages, I mean, or the languages that we know in 21st century, they have a kind of origin, which are like maybe oldest we can go is 4000 BC-ish. Beyond that, what language, which language, in which family, nobody knows actually, because there will be after the human origin from Africa, and around 75,000 current model 75,000 BC, they somewhere reached the India through Gujarat. So between 75,000 to 4,000, you can think about maybe you divide it by 4,000. That means number of times the generations of languages were there, and we don't know anything about that. So all these languages, thousands of languages are there, which are born and dead in a matter of 4,000 years. Typical language life is 4,000 to 6,000 years. So if you have 80,000 years or even include 60,000 years, then you have 10 sets of generations of languages coming and going. We don't know what are those languages.
Thank you, sir. One last question. This is asked by some viewer. So, as per astronomical references, Kali Yuga started in 3102 BCE. Mahabharata ended 36 years before it. But you mentioned that different period for the Mahabharata.
Correct. Yeah, that's a very frequent question, and it is the address. I have addressed this question in the books, the geography of Mahabharata. But I would summarize that the Kali Yuga counting is basically a kind of a counting of an astronomical alignment which happened in 3100 BC, and we had similar astronomy alignments of 5 visible planets, Sun and Moon, in close to 3,100 and I think 3,102 BC. Another one 6,600 and 6,777 BC. And even recently in 2000 BC also we got such alignment. So these alignment events are not kind of inspirational events, because people will always look into the sky compared to our generation. Because 2000 alignment nobody care, because we are all on TV and Facebook, or maybe in social media or internet and TV. But that time there is nothing, so they will always look in the sky and they will be wondering. So as per my studies, when there was this 6,677 BC, there was a calendar start. Similarly, that is called Saptarshi calendar. Possibly a Saptarshi calendar started in that alignment event. Another calendar started in the 3,102 BC. But somehow later, when our tradition is very long, so in a later period, we somehow got mixed up the Kurukshetra war date and connected it with this planetary alignment event. That is why the tradition of Kurukshetra war and 3000 BC started emerging. And Aryabhatta became a big proponent of that, and that Aryabhatta's statement got recorded into so many inscriptions. So today we'll see hundreds of inscriptions which point towards 3000 BC as the Bharata war, etc. But this was a kind of a misalignment of two things. One is Kurukshetra war, another one is a planetary alignment. They mixed it up together. Similar mix-ups, a lot of such mix-ups are there. Shaka era confused with Shaganda era, and created a kind of confusion of around 600 years into the Indian chronology. So people forget things. They they get confused between things. These are normal, especially for a very long tradition like Bharata tradition.
Thank you, sir. That's all from my side. Monkey, shall we conclude the live?
Yeah, I'm good with the question. So thanks again, sir. Thanks for gracing us.
Yeah, one to the viewers, please, I provide the links to uh, SARS books. I mean, in the Amazon links. There is also Kindle versions too. If you want, please go and check it out. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much, sir. Jijith sir, for gracing
little,
the.
little announcement, continuation of that. Sorry,
Yeah, continue.
yeah, the books are basically I still haven't read, but I mean, Sarah has summarized in several Facebook posts. So the books are basically when usually when we get the discussion of when is Mahabharata, when is Kali Yuga, when is Ramayana, there are people with different, unrealistic calculations, which really, kind of fun for others. Like, it is like 20,000 years back, 12,000 years back, and or like, 1 lakh years back. It is in a different epoch. It is in a parallel universe. Those are all, that's not something which you can show as a hard evidence. Sir has clearly, based on several things. We have to read. I haven't read yet, like I said. So, very, very nice chronological order, and then all the rivers have been mapped for the IBC. Like, every river our ancestors know of has a Sanskrit name for it. With us the a lot of, couldn't immediately recollect. I'm a little bit excited now. So they're very nice. So go through those books. Edwin will provide the links, and then if you love any of those topics, please do buy. Yes, I know.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for giving your valuable time for us. Uh, um, your work is simply marvelous, and we really enjoyed your presentation. So I'm closing this live from here. Please like the channel and subscribe to my channel. Like the video and subscribe to my channel. Uh, Good night to all. Jai Sri Ram, Jai Ho Bharat.
Jai Shri.